Chapter 1003 Fooled. Chapter 1003 Fooled. Proofreader Papatonks. You used to be so shrewd till now, so why are you stupid all of a sudden? Baliyu mocked him. Weren't you scared she might have just destroyed your soul and body? Ha ha ha. This much is nothing to the ordeals I've gone through to get here. Zhuofan eased a long breath. When you return the favor, you have to be sincere, giving the other the chance to have a life for the one he had given you. Only this time, my twin souls were too strong for even her full power to destroy. My dragon soul might be hurt, but my domain can absorb all the harm, within limit. Anyway, I got my life back. Baliyu gasped. You're such a weirdo, returning a favor at the cost of your life. In any other situation, I could have returned the favor easily, but she and I walked different paths. She not only disdains my help, but even if I could help her, it would only smear her beliefs, doing more harm than good. Thus the only choice was a life for a life, though I still have uses for mine, and can't just give it up, happy with just offering the chance for her to take it. It's her problem if she falls short of success, but all debts have been paid. Baliyu blinked in confusion. That's one fresh outlook you have that I never seen before. Paying debt can be reduced to just finding inner peace. I don't owe anyone, and neither does anyone owe me. Breaking the ties that bind is nothing more than a formality, so long as my heart achieves tranquility. True grudges and gratitudes are all about the heart. Why bother haggling over how when the stress is dealt with? Baliyu nodded, then turned solemn. What say I give you a chance to get rid of another tie? Zhuofan gave her a long look. What are you up to? What tie are you talking about? Why a favor as great as the heavens themselves? She rushed over to his side and she looked Zhuofan right in the eye. What do you think of me, Qian? Shuddering, everyone in the carriage looked at Frigid Rain Snow King with dumb looks. What's this Sword King doing confessing? Curses, she's truly daring, taking initiative like that, unlike any woman I know. Wait, that's just like a Sword King. All eyes were now on Zhuofan, dropping obvious hints. Sir, getting on with the Sword King won't just help you but also ourselves immensely. Look how eager she is, so just accept it. While she's a bit wild, she has loads of power as well to cower anyone. Glaring at them to stay out of it, Zhuofan looked into Baliyu's hopeful eyes. Miss Yu, what are you saying? Just what I meant. What do you usually think of me? Nothing much, Zhuofan blurted in a flat tone. Baliyu's face twitched and yanked his clothes. Nothing much? Would you like to try that again? Now Miss Yu, let's not get hasty. Sir has always been blunt, so please don't jump to anger. The others noticed the wild woman was about to flip, and rushed to placate her. Baliyu paused in thought, then let Zhuofan go. She steadied her heart and gave her sweetest smile. Sir Qian, your words are so hurtful. You don't look like a saint and certainly don't act like one either. But you have one redeeming quality, being grateful. You'd even give your life to return another's gratitude. I am a woman who respects men with such traits. Out with it, woman, and don't dawdle. Zhuofan huffed. Baliyu's lip twitched in anger and glared at him, her fists clenched, but she managed to get all that frustration out of her with one long breath. Her face maintained the warmth she started with as she judged. What I mean is, Qian, to protect you back in Galefrost Town, I had to face Morong Lai all by myself. Didn't I save your life? So shouldn't you be grateful? Nope. Why? You're a guard Baliyu Ting gave me, and you just did your duty. How's that anything like saving my life? Zhuofan spoke with confidence. Baliyu's heart sank, but she still gave it another try. You caused that mess back in Galefrost Town. Why else would Morong Lai meet us? Since I handled it for you, the least you can do is return the favor. Like I said, you're working for me now, so everything is part of your job description, included, but not limited to, obedience and protection. How is that a favor? Zhuofan looked at her longing eyes as he drawled. Besides, any extra reward I was to give you I already did in Galefrost Town. You'd have been beaten black and blue by now if it weren't for my divine sword, right? I just saved your reputation and your life. Now ain't that the highest gratitude? But that was obvious, since you couldn't escape otherwise. As you master, anything I give you, if ever, isn't out of gratitude but favor. It is you who should be grateful to me, for what's yours is mine, as a servant. Booping Bali Yuyu's nose, Zhuo Fan had an evil smile while defining her responsibilities, then asked, "Oh right, where's my demonic sword? Why haven't you given it back?" Bali Yuyu twisted and placed her hands behind her while shying away in hesitation. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, noticing the sword strapped to her waist then, and held out his hand. "Give it here now. I was just going to ask you that maybe perhaps I can keep it." Bali Yuyu pleaded shyly. The other's eyes widened in realization. Frigid Rain Sword King, she's been wishy-washy all this time, but not to confess at all. How boring, and you got us all hopeful for nothing. Everyone rolled their eyes and looked elsewhere. Only Zhuo Fan saw her intent from the start and mocked. "Keep it? Do you have any idea what this is? You tell me if your patriarch is willing to let you even touch the Sundering Sword." "It's because divine swords are so rare that only now I've wielded one for the first time, and experienced the power it filled me with." Bali Yi looked excited once more. "Oh, I also heard there's only 5 divine swords around. How come you have the 6th? Zhuo Fan glanced at her and jeered. "Who told you that there's only 5 of them? More like there's only 5 in the secular world." "Secular world? You mean there's more divine swords in the world beyond?" "Of course. Let me tell you, all of these divine swords come from Devil Mountain." Zhuo Fan huffed with a wide grin. Bali Yu started shaken to the core. Devil Mountain made the 5 lands divine swords? Well, yes. The masters will make the disciples about to leave Devil Mountain a sword specific to their skill set. The 5 lands divine swords are nothing but weapons left behind by the ones that perished. Zhuo Fan smacked his lips, weaving a shocking tale of adulation. Bali Yu was dumbstruck, needing a long time to react and hold the demonic sword tight to herself while pleading. "Then you can just leave this one to me while you can ask your master to make you another. You think it's that easy? Why would it be called a divine sword if it's so easy to make?" Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes at her. "Who won in Galefrost Town?" "A Morong Lai." Bali Yu hesitated, then pouted. "We fought for 8 days, but still I couldn't beat him, so I left. And since we're about the same, he couldn't stop me nor catch up to me." Zhuo Fan nodded and asked, "Your Morong Lai's equal and could fight him for years. Why did you run after just 8 days?" "How am I his equal? He's been using the decimating sword for 1,000 years, while I only just got yours. I couldn't even link with it either. Of course I lost." "Isn't that obvious?" Zhuo Fan shrugged. "The demonic sword was made with me in mind, so of course it's in tune with me. You learned from Bailey Yutian's Sundering Sword, and that's the sword best for you, while mine is useless. But Patriarch will never give me the Sundering Sword, while even the unfamiliar divine sword you have is better than having none at all. Sword follows your will, so you need one in tune to your being too. Using a random sword, especially this divine sword, will only hinder your path." Zhuo Fan dismissed her request. "Listen, if you obey me and succeed in the task Devil Mountain gave me, I'll be sure to take you back with me, so that master would make you a divine sword akin to Sundering Sword to fit your nature. Won't that be better than insisting on taking mine?" Bali Yu lit up in joy. "Really? Have I ever lied to you?" Zhuo Fan gave his winning smile. Bali Yu nodded in joy, then handed over the demonic sword. Zhuo Fan chuckled while tracing his hand over the pitch-black blade. Since the demonic sword was tied to his mind, no one could get its approval without his permission. Or this broad would have run off with it by now instead of wasting time with me. Zhuo Fan made a sign, and the demonic sword slipped into his body. He then glanced at the cheerful Bali Yu with a hidden smile. Power and fame can blind people so easily, turning even this silly girl into being obsessed with the sword. She not once questioned if divine swords are so easy to make. Besides, when was the last time I've been honest? Chapter 1004, Light's Shadow. Chapter 1004, Light's Shadow. Proofreader, Papatonks. As the carriage rushed along the snowy roads, the mood within was as peaceful as ever. Bali Yu hugged the cute and adorable Chiaowa, while Zhuo Fan finally started to grow on her. She exclaimed all of a sudden and said hastily, "Oh, Morong Lai couldn't find my intentions, but he can easily find yours. Maybe he's searching for it right now and gaining on us. Now that he got a feel of my skills, I can't stall him for long. I can only protect myself, so you need to watch out. Huh, only now you're worried about me. Who would? But with you dead, who knows when I'll ever get the chance to touch such a precious divine sword again. Bali Yi went red and whined. Zhuo Fan shook his head, turning to the others. How far till the next stop? Sir, we will be arriving at Sea Cloud Sect in around 4 hours. Go faster. Zhuo Fan smiled as he said. Bali Yi's brow shook. Weren't you listening? Morong Lai must have been looking for you by now, and since he lost our trail, he'll be sure to ask Sea Cloud Sect for help since it's the closest to Galefrost Town. Are you going there to get caught? My dear frigid Rainsword King, you think I haven't thought about it as well? Then, ha ha ha, do you know of the light's shadow? Zhuo Fan put on a vague smile, laying down without a care. Bali Yi was then left utterly confused. For hours later, the carriage went on undisturbed and reached a frozen waterfall where they slowed down and entered a barrier. At the same time, 3 people stood in an opulent hall, the same 3 they just shook off not long ago. Before them stood an old man with an immortal air and white beard, bowing in respect. Sword God Morong of Southern Lands and immortal healer Morong. You honor my sect with your visit. But from what I know, Sir should be with Sea Bright Sect, getting ready with Sir Ouyang to fight Invincible Sword. What wind has brought you here instead? It's a long story. Morong Lai sighed. I had been staying at Sea Bright Sect in preparation for the upcoming storm, but something happened. Northern Land's first line of defense, Sun Sea Sect, had been under attack and called for help. So I volunteered to go, only to find the sect already in ruins, with the survivors escaping for the Sea Bright Sect. I have thus scouted around for the culprit that did this. Isn't it obvious? The only one who can destroy a Northern Lands sect can only be Invincible Sword's team. As you already know, he has those 9 Sword Kings under him, who can cause such destruction just as well. Yeah, that was my conclusion as well. While I could not take them on by myself, at least by understanding their journey, maybe we could be prepared for the next time. But Morong Lai frowned at the end, filled with hesitation and confusion. The old man urged. What, did Morong clan head find something else disturbing? Precisely. Morong Lai had a dark look on his face. There's another group that might have come within the Northern Lands besides Invincible Swords. The old man shuddered and gasped. Morong clan head? You mean to tell me there's another power out there that can do away with the Northern Lands sect just as easily as the central area? And that it is now here, on our grounds? That's absurd. We all know very well all of the strongest people in the 5 lands. With the central area eyeing us like a starved tiger, the other 4 lands allied together. How can there possibly be a third faction so strong? I didn't believe it was true either, but having seen it with my own eyes, I must. Morong Lai squinted and sighed. As I was investigating Sun Sea Sect, the trail took me to Galefrost Town, where I happened to meet my sister in a dispute with an unknown party. I wanted to investigate further, but they were exceptional. A woman among them is as strong as me and wielded a divine weapon unlike any of which the lands knew. We fought for 8 days to a standstill. It might have gone on for years if the divine weapon was a match for her skill. The old man's face twitched and looked graceful. She must be something indeed to fight Morong clan head with a divine weapon to a standstill. However, what makes you so sure they aren't from the central area? Maybe that sword might have been the Sundering Sword. Sect leader Liang. My brother has once met with the Invincible Sword and has seen the Sundering Sword. On top of that, Invincible Sword guards the sword with his life, never giving it to anyone. Morong Shui gave a bow of respect and intervened with sharp eyes. I've once seen the man within their group once. He unleashed a river of blood in the central area, making it so that in just 3 days, the greatest company, Serene Shores Trading, was destroyed, and the Sword Star Empire to lose close to half their officials. Would someone from the same land resort to such cruelty towards his fellow compatriot? The old man's brow shook, but hesitated still. What I hear from you, miss, is that he is from the 3rd faction? But since he struck at the central area, wouldn't that make him a friend? No. Morong Shui spoke resolutely. He is ruthless and cruel, of a twisted mind and insidious cunning. Just because he left the central area in pain, does not mean his visit to northern lands bodes well. Maybe he wants northern lands to end up in the same sorry state as the central area, if not worse. You can't let this happen, sect leader Liang. Morong Lai agreed with his sister's judgment. I've also seen him myself, of steady calm, great talent and sharp mind. His bearing points to anything but average. Not to mention he has a sword king level expert under him. When he acts, he's bound to make huge waves. We are still in the dark about the purpose of his visit, but it's best to gain control of the situation as soon as possible. We are on the cusp of waging war with invincible sword, and can't afford anything to disturb us, especially a viper staring us from the back. Morong clan head. You're right, we need to gain control of this as soon as possible. The beard of sect leader Liang shook as he sank in thought. Then he cupped his hands. Then what has brought Morong clan head to my sect? Ask and I shall do all in my power to help. Morong Lai returned the gesture with a smile. Sect leader Liang is too kind. I've come to ask for a helping hand. I had fought with the woman guard before, giving them time to flee, and because of the scope of destruction, all trails went cold. I alone will find it hard to search through so much ground, but I'm fortunate to find your sect nearby, and wish to ask sect leader Liang's help in this endeavor. Please, it's our duty to help. Morong clan head works so hard for the safety of our homeland, that you needn't be so polite about it. Sect leader Liang cupped his hands. What may be their description? Morong Shui said. They're a group of 3. The woman among them is very dangerous, and needs only to be seen to know their whereabouts. Beside the man, there's also a 7-year-old cute girl, making them easily recognizable. Ha ha ha, then rest easy. My disciples shall roam for thousands of miles, and are sure to spot such a conspicuous group very soon. As for the lady's worries, haha. Rest assured that we know restraint and not incite anyone that could fight with Morong clan head for 8 days straight. Miss Morong needn't have mentioned, as we would also be weary and keep our distance, ha ha ha. Morong Shui smiled and nodded, while Morong Lai looked satisfied with the answer, cupping his hands in respect. The order was soon given, and the sect was on the move, with all kinds of exceptional experts filling the skies, and leaving the sect to scout the lands. In their haste, they failed to notice the 4 carriages at their gates, and Zhuo Fan holding chower, as he talked business with a round middle-aged man. Glancing at the swarm of people flying out, Zhuo Fan felt the need to comment. Executive Qi, what's going on in the sect? Are you getting ready for war going out in such force? How would I know? I didn't get any orders. Putting his own signature into a jade slip and giving it back to Zhuo Fan, the large horizontally challenged man looked at a flying disciple that passed by. Hey, what happened? Why the sudden deployment? Making a hard stop, the man bowed to the fatty. Executive Qi, sect leader decreed to scout for spies. They've even brought a child. A child? Like this one? Zhuo Fan pointed at Chower. This is my daughter. Isn't she adorable? The man gave a curious glance at the fatty, who waved his doubts away and introduced Steward Qian, in charge of his clan's supply caravan. You can't be looking for him now, can you? Ha ha ha. Chapter 1005, North Seashore. Chapter 1005, North Seashore. Proofreader Papatonks. Probably not. The guy's brow twitched as he looked at the father and daughter bearing bright innocent faces, then at the carriage's guards and sneered. Executive Qi, sect leader spoke of their dangerous nature, and that there were only 3 of them, along with a woman. He also made us exercise extreme caution, to report the minute we see them. As for these 2, ha ha ha, are we that much lacking? Zhuo Fan's eyes widened, striking his chest to declare. We're tough as well. How else would we be ferrying goods around the land? The man's face twitched and nodded. Yeah, you're mighty tough all right. Well, I got a job to do so by. The man was gone. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Weren't you after a little girl? Aren't you taking us to your sect leader? Zhuo Fan whined from the injustice of it all. The fatty cut him off before he wasted more time. Steward Qian, they have their duties. You shouldn't bother them. and let them get to it. That won't do at all. Weren't they after some very dangerous folk? I'm tough, you hear. How can they just overlook me? Where's the humanity? Jerking, Zhuofan grew defiant, turning to Qiaoer's adorable face. Qiaoer, tell me, isn't Dad strong? Qiaoer huffed as she left him there, and went inside the carriage. The fatty chuckled. Everyone wants to look tough in front of their daughter, ha ha ha. Yeah, so you really won't check me out? Zhuofan sighed, looking at the fatty with hope. Since you think I'm that much of a threat, do a slight checkup at least. The fatty rolled his eyes and cussed. Dangerous my ass. What could a radiant stage Qian Steward possibly do? Besides, what would be the point of this mass deployment if sect leader's target would be right before him? You take those dangerous folks for fools to run right at our base to get caught? But they just said they're looking for a child. There's plenty of them in the sea. You think you're the only one with a daughter? Go shoo and stop messing up my job. The fatty drove him away, having lost his patience. Zhuofan had a long face, taking his guards and leaving. Though before they did, a whiny voice came from a carriage. Qiaoer, you gotta believe me. It's not that I'm weak so they aren't checking me out, but that they trust me wholly. The crowd that was gathered from the ruckus, he pulled shook their heads at Zhuofan's display. A father must always look grand before his kids. They were soon taken down memory lane, back to their childhood. The people dispersed, but they would not soon forget Zhuofan's carriages. 4 large carriages came out of the barrier and rumbled down the road to their next stop. Not soon after, a person slipped right inside. She had yet to get her new token to prove her cover, and couldn't follow inside with the caravan. How was it? All good? Bali lit up in hope. Zhuofan said, bored. What do you think? Making such a scene in Sea Cloud sect. I got those disciples to jump to the conclusions I wanted, to take us for nobodies and ignore us. The news is bound to spread fast, and Sea Cloud sect will soon turn a blind eye to our presence. Sometimes the wrong first impression will stay with you for a long time and fool your thinking that since we appeared in the Sea Cloud sect, we automatically check out. So no matter how much we speed on our trip and rush things, they would ignore us. Morong Lai could get even more men, and still wouldn't help for when they see us. They are oblivious to the light's shadow. Oh, you've got skills fooling Southern Land's sword god in no time at all. Bailey Yu patted Zhuofan's shoulder, cheering. His face twitched and glared. No touching, words are enough. You know exactly what I can do also. That hit almost burst a vein inside me. Bali Yu stuck out her tongue, acting cute, then turned shy with an apologetic look. Zhuofan rolled his eyes, wincing every time he touched his swollen shoulder with a hurt look. All I wanted was to move undetected through northern lands. But then I stumbled into Invincible Sword, and barely made it out alive, before meeting Ardent Sun Sword God as well. I talked my way out with Invincible Sword, since his desires are his demons I could leverage, but that Morong clan is too upright, in opposition of my path, not easily swayed. Ardent Sun Sword God has just become a pain in my side. Damn it, those truly righteous and free from desire cultivators just don't fit with my nature. This will make things harder, ugh. Taking a deep breath, Zhuofan leaned back with closed eyes. The 4 carriages didn't stop for anything in their journey, making their scheduled stops at the sects, and then resuming their trek. 5 months passed by in total, before Zhuofan reached his final destination, having gone through 2 more sects, the North Sea Shore Sea Bright sect. Regarding the boundless snow mountain in the distance, Zhuofan sighed, his gaze quivering. Are your tokens ready? Ready, the men shouted with conviction. Only Bali Yu smirked at them. Sea Bright sect is one dangerous place. It's packed with experts and leaves me no choice but to stay a bit further this time. Frigid Rainsword King, that won't be necessary. One guard revealed a familiar token, identical to the ones they have, and smiled. 3 days ago we received your token we requested in that town. Now you're no longer unaccounted for, and can come with us. Bali Yu was shocked, then her eyes shone. Since it was 3 days ago, why not give it to me then? Sir had me hold on to it, to make it a surprise. The guy shrugged and Bali Yu skipped a beat as she looked at Zhuofan. Zhuofan grinned. Not much of a surprise really. With how frigid Rain Sword King always acts alone, it was clear you didn't want such a thing. Now I'm unsure if Sword King would be willing to come with us, to walk beside us with this cover. But it seems my worries are unfounded, ha ha ha. Humph, who'd ever go with you? I was just concerned about bringing trouble to you, and ruining my mission. Does that mean Frigid Rain Sword King doesn't want to come in with us? You don't want the token? Then go ahead, destroy it. I never said that. Why ruin a perfectly good thing anyway? Bali Yu rushed to take it, and glared at Zhuofan. Zhuofan smiled, his eyes shining. But by taking that token, you are officially part of this team and must obey my orders. Bali Yu shook and her grip on the token loosened, but then she gripped it harder, whispering to herself, haven't I been doing it already? Great, now everyone's an official team. Zhuofan turned serious and shouted. So I'll ask again, are everyone's token ready? Ready? Everyone shouted this time. Even Bali Yu looked eager. She was going to enter one of Northern Land's 5 sects for the first time undercover. While being part of a caravan was a severe step down from a Sword King, she actually treasured the change for some odd reason. Having traveled with Zhuofan, and the caravan for so long began to grow on her. Zhuofan looked at them and ordered, towards North Seashore. They all nodded and the carriage rumbled uphill, for the snowy peak. Chapter 1006, Perfect Couple. Chapter 1006, Perfect Couple. Proofreader Papatonks. Zhuofan's team of 4 carriages made a ripple in the air as it entered the barrier, appearing before a vast body of water. Above it were suspended stairs leading to the abodes of immortals. The mountain was nowhere to be seen, replaced by 3 floating islands of great expanse, as its only resemblance to the image outside. This was where the strongest sect in the northern lands stood, the North Sea's shores. While deep in the North Sea was the rumored demon of incredible power, and Zhuofan's target. The monsters of the sea were mere spiritual beasts, with only this demon able to speak like a human. That was why people called it Sea Demon. Only Zhuofan here knew the Sea Demon was in fact one of the 5 great sacred beasts, the only one that could save young Sanzi, the heaven-sealing Cao. Staring at the great rolling expanse of water, Zhuofan's eyes shook and his fists clenched. Xiao looked excited as well, finally able to rescue her big brother. Whoosh! Black figures suddenly dropped before the team, numbering in the dozens. The leader was an old man with a black and white mustache, presenting them a most kind smile as he greeted. Thank you, Qian clan, for the trouble you went through delivering these goods. I am Executive Dai Qianqiu of the Seabright sect. Dai Qianqiu? Money trouble, hee. Bali Yu couldn't help herself and giggled at his name, whispering to Zhuofan. Qian, you finally met your half. You dislike money, and he's in need of money, a match made in heaven. You're destined to make the perfect couple, hi. Smiley face, she's making fun of both of their names, making a pun out of it. The others chuckled as well. Glaring at her, Zhuofan gave a wry smile and returned the gesture. Executive Dai, I am but a steward in the Qian clan Qianfan. This is the proof of all the sects we've passed. Zhuofan presented a jade slip with both hands. The executive wasn't haughty in the least, taking it with equal respect and a smile. Yes, these are the signatures of the 4 sects executives. Sir is beyond reproach, but the others? Hurry up and present your tokens to the executive. Zhuofan snapped at them to obey, making them flustered as they rushed to follow his orders. Only Bali Yu was beyond casual as she took it out, and threw it to the man with the roll of her eyes. Glaring at her, Zhuofan could only apologize in her stead. Executive Dai, she just went through menopause and it's still unstable. Screw you, Bali Yu hissed under her breath. Executive Dai gave a careless wave, being quite easygoing. He checked their tokens and smiled. You make for a perfect couple, Steward Qian, braving through so many dangers through the now precarious northern lands to send us these goods. That's very noble of you. Perfect couple? Zhuofan looked stumped. Did I say something wrong? The old man scanned the jade slip in his hand again before looking at Zhuofan. 3 days ago we received an update on the Qian clan's roster, that the caravan sending us the goods will be led by Steward Qian Fan and his wife, Qian Yu. Your signatures also check out. Is there perhaps a problem? Dong. Zhua Fan froze on the spot at the heavy blow to his mind. He made a weird face as he tried to keep his calm. You mean, Qian Fan and Qian Yu, husband and wife, are escorting goods? Bali Yu was also stupefied, looking at the old man with a dumb look. When reality hit her at long last, she gave Zhua Fan a seething look with a red face as she whisper-shouted, You dare use me like that, punk? As if. I'm as clueless about this as you are, all right? Lies. Aren't they just doing your bidding? Yeah, they do, but this time. Zhua Fan's mouth twitched, looking off there, then turned to the rest with an insidious glint in his eyes. Zhua Fan had principles. When it came to taking a wife, he would never do it on a whim, even if it was all fake, just like how he didn't do it with Shangguan Qingyan. But this time, at this critical moment, he found himself stuck with this cover, putting him at an impasse on what he should do next. If he did go with it, his heart would be totally against it. While refusing it, then his cover was blown. He was in a real pickle. The caravan guards saw Zhua Fan and Bali Yu looking dark there, and were tense as they lowered their heads. Executive Dai frowned. Why aren't you married? The two were silent, with neither willing to admit it. Executive Dai was perplexed, feeling the odd situation, and raising his suspicion. He withdrew slowly, and was about to signal for his men to seize them. Everything was about to fall to ruin. Even with Bali Yu there to help, it wouldn't matter much in the strongest sect in northern lands. Not only Ouyang Lingtian lived here, but it also held the strongest experts in these parts. Bali Yu had no way of fending so many attackers. She would end up defeated for sure. In this dire situation, neither Zhua Fan nor Bali Yu were willing to compromise and save the day, all because their hearts were against it. Dai Qianqiu's suspicion only grew, his hand close to signaling the men and ruining everything they worked for. The guards were shivering at the side, looking at the two with pleading eyes. Please just save us. Is it that bad to fake being married? It's not a hanging, so why? If you keep silent any longer, we're really going to get the noose. They were almost wetting themselves as they saw Executive Dai about to give the damning order. Dad, Mom, I'm hungry. Are you going to keep arguing until I starve? Xiaoer jumped in with her adorable voice, looking annoyed and grumbling at the two. The guards lit up with newfound hope. One of them rushed to Xiaoer's side and carried her over to Executive Dai with a smile. Executive Dai, how can they be anything but husband and wife? Look, they even have a child. Then what are they doing? Dai Qianqiu asked in suspicion. The guard laughed and sighed. It all started over nothing and escalated, with Steward Qian even threatening to leave her. Now their fighting still hasn't been settled. Oh, I see. Executive Dai gave a knowing nod, and his suspicion was washed away. He smiled at Zhua Fan. Steward Qian. It takes years to accept someone and decades to fully be at peace with one's partner. Why must you insist over trivialities? Zhua Fan glanced at Bali Yu and said, She's not my wife. Well, you're not my man either. Bali Yu glared back. The two spoke the truth, but Dai Qianqiu heard it as nothing more than a lover's spat. So he shook his head and waved. You need to stop fighting, especially before a child, ha ha ha. It wouldn't help her. Since you've all been weary from your long journey here, we've got a place ready for you to rest for a few days. You're welcome to tour our sect if you want. The North Sea's shore is magnificent, with people from northern lands hardly having the chance to see its beauty. You won't find this anywhere else. Thank you for everything, Executive Dai. Zhua Fan's eyes roamed around and settled on a grunt, recalling his true objective and giving the man a bow. Dai Qianqiu smiled and had someone lead the way to their stay. One figure suddenly appeared just then, whispering to Dai Qianqiu. His face changed and blocked Zhua Fan's way. Steward Qian, sect leader requests myself and Sir's presence. Zhua Fan and the others' faces fell. What would the high and mighty sect leader of the Sea Bright sect want to do with a nobody steward? Were their covers blown? Zhua Fan looked at Bali Yu, who had a cold gaze, with murder slowly filling her eyes. Chapter 1007, Ling Yuntian. Chapter 1007, Ling Yuntian. Proofreader Papatonks. Don't make any hasty decisions. I'll go see what's going on. Zhuofan squinted and took a deep breath as he made a decision, sending that message to his team. The others flinched and nodded. Bali Yuyu's eyes darted around, sizing everything, before nodding at last. A blown cover means we'd have been detained by now with far more experts surrounding us. Not to mention they'd never ask for you to speak. It's too early to tell what is going on. While also not grounded enough to rule out the possibility that Morong Lai wants to look into us. So you need to get ready to act at any second. I'll leave Qiao in your care. Zhuofan's eyes shone, his face grave. What about you? I have my own way of escape, don't worry. Bali Yu asked quickly, at which Zhuofan replied casually. I'm going. They watched tensely as Zhuofan flew with Dai Qianqiu towards the highest floating island, while a disciple took them to their rooms. An hour later, Zhuofan and Dai Qianqiu were standing before a huge gate, with hundreds of disciples standing guard on each side. The gate reached 30 meters in height, with 9,999 copper insertions, in the shape of a yin-yang symbol, to show the natural order of the world. Dai Qianqiu regarded the broad gate and bowed. Zhuofan figured it had to be a custom, giving respect to the sect. A traveler stopping by needs to show respect as well, and might even leave a good impression. So Zhuofan did the same, standing straight after doing it 3 times. Dai Qianqiu gave an approving nod, showing a sincere nod as he spoke with reverence at the gate. Sect leader, Steward Qian has arrived. Enter. Rumble. With a loud rumble, the gate cracked open. The 2 rows of disciples bowed at once, all shouting at Zhuofan, please. Steward Qian after you. Dai Qianqiu smiled and gestured not unlike the disciples. Zhuofan sighed at this huge welcome. This is the Sea Bright sect, the strongest of the sects in northern lands. Yet the bigger they are, the more aware they are of giving respect and receiving it, instead of acting all cocky. He was but a merchant, yet the Sea Bright sect's sect leader showed such deference. This was proof enough to label the Sea Bright sect as reasonable and righteous as Morong Lai. That also meant they would never act unless the proof was conclusive. Which works great for me. While meeting with an impulsive sect, they only needed to believe he was bad news, and he was finished. Things aren't for the worst yet. Zhuofan speculated as he smiled at Dai Qianqiu, and walked forward with the executive behind. As he climbed the 999 steps up, the disciples always set their eyes on him, yet none held the slightest contempt. This was the way Sea Bright sect welcomed guests, regardless of profession. Zhuofan saw a grand hall, and 3 people waiting for him. Only with one of them he was acquainted, Executive Qiao from the Sun Sea sect. Zhuofan had a clear picture of what this was all about. Haha, so it's him. It's nothing then. And here I thought Ardent Sun Sword God was going to welcome me. God, that gave me a fright. Sect leader. He's the one that made Sun Sea sect suffer so much. He must be a Central Area spy. Executive Qiao instantly pointed fingers, and accused Zhuofan the moment he appeared. He was boiling with rage and murder, wanting to spill his blood then and there. Zhuofan ignored him and his whining, walking before the 3 and bowing. A middle-aged man spoke to an elder next to him. Sect leader Ling. It seems the boy is pleading guilty under Executive Qiao's accusations. We need to take him back for thorough questioning, and appease the thousands of lost souls of my sect. Steward Qian, I take it. I am the sect leader of the Sun Bright sect, Ling Yuntian. The old man gave Zhuofan a long look, but didn't let the middle-aged man's words get to him, or stop the greeting. Zhuofan faked shock and bowed as well. Sect leader Ling said, Does Steward Qian have anything to say regarding Executive Qiao's accusations? Accusations? Zhuofan sneered. I have no idea of them. What are they? You dare lie to our faces? Executive Qiao's accusations are clear to everyone here. You have nothing to say for yourself that can absolve you, and we all know it. Yet you dare act oblivious? Sect leader Ling he. The middle-aged man shouted, snapping at Zhuofan with his finger, but Zhuofan regarded him calmly and saluted Ling Yuntian. Sect leader Ling made the introductions. Steward Qian. He is Sun Sea sect's sect leader, Bu Xingyun. You have delivered goods to Sun Si sect, but didn't meet with sect leader Bu, so you don't know him, ha ha ha. Oh, sect leader Bu, greetings, greetings, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan saluted at once. Sect leader Ling. There's a misunderstanding here that I wish to clarify. Executive Chao is someone I have met in Sun Si sect, but I don't know when he came to your sect. When I have just arrived here, I've only been hearing Executive Chao's curses, and it got me completely confused. I wish for nothing more than to understand why this happened. But since this is Sir's home and I am a mere guest, it is proper manners to see the sect leader and not start arguing. Zhuo Fan put on a sinister smile, mocking Executive Chao. I may be a mere merchant, but I am educated enough not to start a fight in another's home. At the very least, I'll need sect leader's approval first to prove my innocence and shed light. Acting like a mangy cur, in the master's home no less, won't that make him disrespectful? I may not be well read, but my parents had at least taught me proper respect. Ugh! Executive Chao choked, looking red as a crab. Zhuo Fan was talking with the sect leader, but kept poking holes in his attitude. And the problem was that it was all true. It was sect leader Ling's home, yet he started shouting at Zhuo Fan. It mattered not if Zhuo Fan was a spy, not when he was dissatisfied with the Sea Bright sect. Unlike Zhuo Fan, he gave no respect to the sect leader. And since the sect leader wasn't some nobody, but the sect leader of the strongest sect in northern lands, the same man he was relying on as well. Executive Chao's face twitched hard, looking pained as he regarded Bu Xingyun's dark face. Sect leader, I didn't mean. You're talking to the wrong person. Bu Xingyun spoke coldly. Executive Chao bowed to Ling Yuntian. Sect leader Ling, forgive me. Please don't believe this man's nonsense. How could I ever disregard the head of the sects in northern lands, Sea Bright sect? I was just caught in the moment. Fine, fine, Executive Chao is an impulsive man. I understand, ha ha ha. Ling Yuntian dismissed his worries as he smiled. Zhuo Fan cocked an eyebrow. The old guy really is kind to not even be irked by that. Sea Bright sect's name as the best sect in northern lands isn't unfounded after all. Just look at their sect leader. If the head was weak, the rest would crumble. With the sect leader so collected, it's only natural that the Sea Bright sect became the one to lead the other 5 sects in northern lands. Zhuo Fan stared into those kind eyes and felt unease, having failed to stir his emotions and lead the talks. The danger comes not from Executive Chao nor Bu Xingyun, but sect leader Ling. Chapter 1008, Leading. Chapter 1008, Leading. Proofreader Papatonks. Bu Xingyun never let Zhuo Fan out of his sight, staring with a murderous gaze and clenched fists. He only listened to Executive Chao's account, and brought him here to recognize the culprit to use some excuse to make it better for his sect. The 5 sects of northern lands were doing fine so far, so how come you just had to poke a central area sword king to get your home wasted? Was it bad leadership or no leadership? Just hearing it would irk his mood. There was also the matter of reputation, which had received a serious blow. Only he had his sect, which became ruined under his lead, and would be lauded as a laughingstock for years to come, if not eternity. He had to think of something, anything. Something along the lines of giving himself for the good of northern lands, fighting tooth and nail with central area's spies, only to be betrayed, and ending up in this sorry state. Now the joke would catch a heroic vibe that would turn jeers into calls of respect, and it would be the grounds for extra support in recovering as well. This was the script he wanted to play. Catch the spy, get the reward, and restore the sect to shut everyone up. Though it seemed that someone was improvising in his little act, shifting the focus of the play. Executive Chao just spoke up, and Zhuo Fan mocked him for disrespecting Sea Bright sect, having no manners. The problem was, it affected him as well by association since he was the sect leader, as he also started ranting without Ling Yuntian's accord. But Ling Yuntian was nice enough to keep mute about it. But he already tasted his disrespect, and felt their unkind attitude for Sea Bright sect. You can't follow simple etiquette as a sect leader and executive while a mere merchant can? I can only assume from this that you got destroyed for very good reasons, provoking the other into attacking with your arrogance. Lose tongues in lives. He not only gained nothing but lost instead, falling out of favor with the big boss. Bu Xingyun's anger surged as consequence, from seeing Zhuo Fan as a pawn to use in his favor to hating his guts. He glared hard at Zhuo Fan, then spoke to Ling Yuntian. Sect leader Ling, my executive has gotten ahead of himself, and I'll be sure to address this back at the sect. But Steward Qian has yet to answer his questions. Would it be possible for sect leader Ling to help? Ha ha ha, that is why we're here. Ling Yuntian laughed and still spoke on a kind tone while saluting. Steward Qian is such a courteous man. Having just arrived at my sect, I should play the host and honor your. But some problems have appeared that need Steward Qian's input. I can only ask that you forgive my insistence. Zhuo Fan smiled. You're too kind, sect leader Ling. It's my honor to be of any help to you. Yes, sect leader, Steward Qian has bowed alongside me before the great gates. He is a respectful man, and is sure to not mind this slight inconvenience. Dai Qianqiu at the side bowed and said, anyone else would become suspicious. What's his relationship with Qian Fan? Why is he taking his side? But he wasn't speaking for Qian Fan at all, reporting instead to sect leader Ling of his equally respectful demeanor that he reciprocated with at everyone's salute. Just because Zhuo Fan had bowed with Dai Qianqiu before the gates, Dai Qianqiu spoke up so that sect leader would keep this in mind. Otherwise, with Qian Fan being a mere merchant, the others could have easily pushed him for answers. Now, however, Ling Yuntian was present as well, and Bu Xingyun couldn't use force. Zhuo Fan's act was a minor one, yet the effect was grand, gaining Bright Sect's protection. This became evident with Ling Yuntian's following words. Steward Qian is thoughtful. Bu Xingyun's face twitched, looking at the three of them with a sigh. Knowing force wouldn't help him here, he would have to use guile, giving Executive Chow a look. The executive caught on and started shouting, Qian, I want an honest answer. When the Sun Sea sect was destroyed, did you draw that witch Frigid Rain Sword King over? Frigid Rain Sword King? Zhuo Fan looked shocked. I never met her, so how could I've drew her? Executive Chow sneered. You're still lying? Then answer this. Didn't you say that when you were delivering goods to our sect, that a central area spy was following you? Yes. Then you asked me to go grab the spy, right? I guess. Zhuo Fan muttered with a frown and a hesitant nod. Pa! Executive Chow clapped in success. Ha ha ha, yes, that's right. We went to capture the spy, but it turned out to be Frigid Rain Sword King from the central area. This led her to attack our sect, slaughtering everyone. If you didn't draw the witch, who did? Sect leader Ling. Everything's clear now. I ask that you seize this spy, and find out what else has he been leaking through thorough interrogation. Guard, arrest this man, throw him in prison, and activate the barriers, so he can't escape. Bu Xingyun shouted eagerly. Dai Qianqiu cleared his voice with a bow. Sect leader Bu, you're in Bright Sect. Oh right, it's sect leader Ling's right to issue this order. Forgive me, I forgot myself, sect leader Ling. Waking up from his blunder, Bu Xingyun apologized. Ling Yuntian gave a careless wave, but his words seemed to say otherwise. Sect leader Bu, we all make mistakes and slip, but as sect leaders, we must remember that while being hasty is one thing, and the value of life is another. I only hope that you will work to correct your impulses. Bu Xingyun shuddered, knowing Ling Yuntian was chiding him, but was forced to nod. As Executive Chow gave his version, it should now be Steward Qian's turn. Steward Qian has shown hesitation just now, so you must have a different opinion, ha ha ha. Ling Yuntian ignored him, and gave Zhuo Fan the right to speak with a bright smile, and the chance to turn it around. Bu Xingyun's face sank but was helpless. Zhuo Fan bowed, and looked grateful as he smiled at the smug Executive Chow. Executive Chow was right, but there are a few parts one feel that were left out that leaves room for interpretation. Allow me to fill the gaps. Executive Chow, would you kindly answer me whether or not I was the one who approached you about the spies when I delivered the goods? Have I asked Executive Chow explicitly to go capture the spy? Oh well. Executive Chow hesitated and Bu Xingyun glared. Spit it out. Did you not insist that he led the witch to us? Why are you stammering then? Yes, sect leader, when you wanted to learn about this very quickly, I was being concise, thus leaving some random details out. Random? Like? Bu Xingyin glared at him. Executive Chao's lips quivered, not knowing how to say it. Zhuo Fan laughed and bowed. Sect leader Bu, it's better for me to tell what happened in detail. The fault lies with my caravan. On that day, the Central Area spy had set her eyes on us and destroyed one of our carriages. So when we arrived at your sect, we only delivered half. We explained what happened and asked for extra days to bring the rest. Is that right? Bu Xingyin turned to his executive. Executive Chao nodded. Yes, that's exactly right. In other words, isn't it their fault for failing to guard the goods? Bu Xingyin asked with doubt. Scratching his head, Executive Chao gave an awkward nod. Zhuo Fan interjected. May I continue? Go ahead. Bu Xingyin found no issue and waved at him to resume. But this in fact helped Zhuo Fan in leaving his own tiny, but crucial detail. Executive Chao then permitted us to come back with the rest of the goods and we left. Later I heard a huge ruckus, and the world shaking with lightning covering the skies. There were shouts as well, but we were so scared we chose to flee at once. Wait, that's not how it went. How then? I couldn't just let you leave when you only gave us half the goods. It's you who said that you have someone following you, and that catching him will earn us a great commendation. Did you not say that these goods are nothing compared to that? Executive Chao rushed to ask. Zhuo Fan nodded after a pause. Yes, and then? Then I let you go. Since we couldn't give you the goods, how come you let us go? What nonsense. What's more important, some lost goods or catching the spy? I let you go to draw him out and then grab him. Did you then? Half the credit is mine. As if. What credit is there to share when up against a sword king? More like share a jail cell. Oh. Executive Chao grunted to a stop, realizing his slip. Zhuo Fan smirked. Hear that? We were bait. They went to grab the spy. How did we go from being on the same side to becoming a Central Area spy? Chapter 1009 Blunder. Chapter 1009 Blunder. Proofreader Papatonks. The bait and hunter worked together in capturing the enemy. So how come it turned into a Central Area spy, sect leader Bu? Ling Yuntian smiled, teasing. It seems to me that the Qian caravan was more like the Sun Sea sect's spy instead. Ha ha ha. Bu Xingyin's face fell, glaring at his executive. Executive Chao, when I had you punished for your gross misdemeanor, you said you were played, that the Qian caravan is a Central Area spy. Why then do I now hear that you two worked together in capturing a sword king, thus unleashing a calamity upon the sect? Sect leader Bu, the capturing of the sword king falls all on Executive Chao. Please don't drag us into this when we know nothing of it. Zhuo Fan interjected quickly, to make his position known. Executive Chao's face twitched in anger, losing his temper. Your sly words lured me into this mess. I would never make such a grave mistake otherwise. Executive Chao, loose tongues in lives. I lured you? It's all your fault for telling me your tale is a spy that I sent a team to capture her. Haha, well isn't this funny? You're one of the 5 sects in northern lands, Sun Sea sect, in charge of keeping these lands safe. You're now saying that after having lost a carriage, and being followed should be kept all to myself instead? You might have neglected to report my findings, but I had done my duty by telling you. Zhuo Fan sneered, then turned to Ling Yuntian. Sect leader Ling, am I wrong in any way? If it were a matter of luring, then no one would ever report on the enemy movements to the sect and plunge northern lands into hell. Ling Yuntian bobbed his head. Hear, hear, patriotic, responsible, and furthermore, when your own clan's goods end up ruined, who wouldn't report? This goes double in these times, with northern lands on the edge. Sect leader Ling is wise. Zhuo Fan gave a bow and turned to Executive Chao. Furthermore, there were rumors going around that Sun Sea sect is actually cowardly, and didn't think my report would ever amount to much, so I omitted it from you at first. But with you questioning the loss of half the goods, I had no choice but to be honest. It was the only way for you to leave me be. Executive Chao's face twitched harder, with Bu Xingyin darkening by the second. Zhuo Fan's passionate speech had simply been accusatory of the Sun Si sect. What was worse, this happened in front of Ling Yuntian, and so he could do nothing to retaliate, only twitching as he tried to bottle up that anger. Executive Chao's heart sank looking at sect leader's sinister face. He had to do anything to get Qian Fan to take the fall, or he'd be the one to get it in the end. Finding Central Area spies was no longer the issue here, but giving his sect leader self-respect back and letting loose. Qian Fan, we don't need your flimsy opinions. You might be right about the report, but what about later? You proposed that we catch the spy together and share credit. It's your enticing offer that made me act and mess with that witch. It's all due to you that she came to Sun Si sect. Yeah, I did mention this to you, but how did you reply? Zhuo Fan raved. Having lost half the goods, I did not know how to make up for the loss. I planned on doing it alone, but you just had to push the issue. In the end, you frickin' acted on your own. Are you going to say I made you do that too? If it were an average spy, the success would have propelled your career. Would you have come to bother me then? Just cause you got bad luck and suffered for it, you want to drag me down with you? Is that how you think the world works? Sharing tribulations but not success? I first lost a carriage, and to add insult to injury, you stole my credit. What the hell? Zhuo Fan rained on Executive Chao, with the conviction in his innocence. He got Executive Chao to shake under the assault, and with no comeback. Because all that Zhuo Fan raved about was damn true. Even his scheme back then was refuted, and he had no grounds on which to fight back. Though he was no fool and nodded. But you said your dozen guards have chased the spy away. That which was anything but weak. Your words got me into this mess. Humph, yeah. We had the spy surrounded, but then she escaped with her faster speed. Am I wrong? There's no way Frigid Rain Sword King got surrounded by just your team. How would I know? Maybe she liked to toy with us first. Who knows what twisted hobbies some experts have. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes. While in your case you cut her off so she didn't run, haha. Zhuo Fan smirked, hitting where it hurt the most. Bu Xingyun shook from rage. Executive Chao looked aggrieved as he peeked at his sect leader. Dai Qianqiu chuckled and bowed. Sect leader Bu, it's all clear now. Ever since Invincible Sword slipped into our northern lands 6 months ago, Frigid Rain Sword King had to have been following his orders to stay hidden. While she didn't move against a trade caravan, only following it, its dozen guards would also find it impossible to catch her as well, thus making her feel free. But then Sea-Bright Sect blocked her way all of a sudden, giving her a hard time to flee. She would thus have no choice but to retaliate, causing this catastrophe. Bailey Yutian's team was hardly sighted ever since they came to our lands, having their own plans. This disaster wouldn't have happened if they let her be. Yeah, Invincible Sword's team has to have a plan for staying low, and wouldn't want to make such a huge scene. The way the Sun Si sect got ruined is highly unusual. Ling Yuntian nodded, then said, Executive Chao, how many times did you have Frigid Rain Sword King surrounded in the end? Executive Chao's brow shook, muttering as he counted. I had sent 50 soul harmony experts, and when my men died I went to Elderly, who also sent 50 Genesis stage experts. When they died, we went to Venerable Ma, who went himself along with 10 other peak Genesis stage experts. That makes it 3. Then the woman came to us. Executive Chao's action had everyone dumbstruck. Pa! Executive Chao found himself flying from that hard slap, landing a good 10 meters away with a bloody mouth. As he got back to his feet, he found 2 teeth had fallen. But then, he noticed Bu Xingyun's rage as he glared at him in fury. God damn it, you useless sack of puss. You had her attack thrice? Well, of course she'd be pissed. Not just the witch, but even I would have been fuming. Bu Xingyun's face twitched and shook all over as he raved. You damn bastards, how can you be so retarded? 50 died, then another 50. First soul harmony experts, then Genesis experts. Yet you still haven't learned? You just sent men to fetch instead of at least knowing the opponent? Then you had the enemy come ruining the sect, so you pin it on some impossible spy? Of course my sect gets destroyed, especially with you morons in it. Bu Xingyun lamented. Ling Yuntian chuckled and waved his hand. Sect leader Boo, please calm down. While it's all just a misunderstanding, it's good that everything's clear now. I was wondering why Bailey Yutian's team would stay hidden all this time, only to enact such a huge disaster later on, then hide again. It's obvious now, just desserts. Oops, I slipped as well, sorry. Bu Xingyun's cheek twitched, and he gave him an annoyed look for his own mistake being used on him. But then he turned apathetic. Ling Yuntian cupped his hands. Steward Qian, the misunderstanding is now obvious. Forgive me for any slight that I might have caused. I ask that the Qian clan wouldn't let this minor event come between us. Still working hard for the good of northern lands. I am grateful to see Bright Sect being fair and giving me justice in this matter. It is I who should apologize, sect leader, having let the matter get to me. Zhuo Fan hastily spoke. Ling Yuntian waved it off. Ha ha ha, it's nothing. Steward Qian is a courteous man and a true man, to my liking. I have rarely seen men of your quality even among all the lands, Steward Qian. Sect leader is too kind. Zhuo Fan gave another deep bow. Then may I take my leave? Please. Ling Yuntian gestured with a constant smile. Zhuo Fan cupped his hands again before leaving. Bu Xingyun eyed Ling Yuntian, having lost all confidence, bowing to him, then taking executive chow away. Dai Qianqiu appeared once more next to Ling Yuntian moments later. A farce, ha ha ha. That remains to be seen. Ling Yuntian spoke gravely, having lost his smile. Dai Qianqiu asked curiously, Sect leader, wasn't the matter clear? The so-called spies never existed. Yeah, but it's too obvious and that makes me uneasy. Ling Yuntian's eyes shone. You think in any confrontation, there's only black and white. Humph. On one hand is the sect leader of the Sun Sea sect, and on the other a mere steward of the Qian clan. They couldn't be more different. But do you really believe that Steward would ever have the ability to control the way the confrontation went? Dai Qianqiu gasped. Sect leader means. There's more to that steward than he lets on. Ling Yuntian's eyes shone with conviction. Outside the hall, Zhuo Fan was on his way back when a chill went through him. Curses! I've just gone to clear my name but showed off too much. What kind of merchant would act like that? I treated those two like rabid dogs. Ugh, what a blunder. Chapter 1010, Well Met Again. Chapter 1010, Well Met Again. Proofreader Papatonks. What normal merchant out there refuted a sect leader? I got Ling Yuntian's favor from the start, and I just had to miss a few beats now and then, acting like I was pushed around, and then he would have gotten me out of it. But now that this win was too perfect, it only raised suspicion. Sigh, it all comes down to how perceptive Ling Yuntian is. But no random steward should ever be so tough. The more he thought, the more worried he became, ending up with a sigh as he made his way back. He had really been careless just now. And Mr. Gu. The sudden call snapped him out from his thoughts. Pausing, Zhuo Fan frowned and his face fell. Who else could it be but one of his old pals from the central area? Freezing on the spot, he turned to find the very familiar miss of the Shangguan clan staring at him. It also worked to make him wonder what she would be doing here of all places. Wasn't she going back to Eastern lands? What's she doing here? They got their sword back, so they ought to be home. Then it hit him, the Four Lands Alliance. As the Shangguan clan was the leader of the Eastern lands, they of course offered help to northern lands in fighting off the enemy. Them being here was natural. Or better yet, he should have been prepared for it. But the sudden meet came out of nowhere, leaving him floored. With the Shangguan clan knowing everything about him, his Qian cover was bound to be blown. Shangguan Qingyan lit up with unspeakable joy. Mr. Gu, it's really you. I thought you looked familiar from afar. Zhuo Fan moved with speed and precision, landing next to her and covering her mouth. Shangguan Qingyan jerked, but then noticed Zhuo Fan's sneaky look. There was no trace of fear in her heart, only giving a silly smile, while her eyes basked in the joy of reunion. Zhuo Fan gave the secluded forest path a once-over for anyone else being around, then took Shangguan Qingyan deeper into the woods. Now looking at her excited gaze, he rolled his eyes and let go of her, speaking in a serious tone. How come I run into you again? Yeah, what a coincidence meeting you as well, Mr. Gu, ha ha ha. blushing hard. Shangguan Qingyan gave a shy smile and looked bashfully away. Taking a deep breath, Zhuofan stared at her as he mulled before speaking. Miss Shangguan, I am so happy to see you as well. Really? I think so too. Shangguan Qingyan lit up and gazed into his deep eyes with a wide smile. Zhuofan rushed to settle her mood. This isn't the time to reminisce. I still have important things to do, so I must be going. So soon? But we just met. Yes, the matter is urgent, ha ha ha. Zhuofan sighed. Also, I'm not Gu Yifan now, so act like you never saw me. You must never ever mention anything about me to anyone, or my head would roll. Are we clear? Shangguan Qingyan paused, then smiled. You're not Gu Yifan? Does that mean it's a fake name? Then who are you? Tell me, or I'm telling Dad that Gu Yifan giving him sleepless nights is here, in the northern lands. I gave him sleepless nights. What was he thinking about? Zhuofan's brow furrowed, but then shook his head. This was no time to think about some random stuff. So making sure the coast was still clear. Miss Shangguan, this is serious. I have a secret mission here that no one must know about. Are you up against northern lands now? That won't do. We're here to help them. I'm not interested in northern lands. I won't meddle in their affairs, I promise. Then what are you here for? It doesn't concern you. Just promise me you'll keep my secret, that you never saw me. Once I finish my mission, I'll just leave with none the wiser. Zhuofan vowed. Shangguan Qingyan pouted. You're saying you're gonna leave without drawing attention? Cross my heart and hope to die. I don't believe it. What about me? Grumbling with a lowered head, Shangguan Qingyan teared up. You slip and then slip out so that not even I will be startled. Zhuofan's face twitched and sighed. Anyone else would be wrecked with fear from being involved with such a mastermind like him. Then guilt eating them up inside from not reporting. But this chick is more worried about not saying goodbye when leaving. Just what's going through her head. What's so important about seeing her before I go? It's not like I'm taking her. Just what does she get out of a fake promise? Giving her a long look, Zhuofan sighed. Alright, I'll drop by before leaving. Really? Does that mean since only I know you came and left, then only I know what you did here? Shangguan Qingyan grew exuberant once more. Zhuofan cocked his head. I guess. But what's with that twisted logic? Anyone else that knew this would have had me exposed. It's all the same, since you can only trust me in this place. I won't ever sell you out. Shangguan Qingyan giggled, hugging his arm. Zhuofan's brow shook, glancing at her. Yeah, I guess I trust you. Who else am I to trust if not the one who ran into me? Ha ha ha. Besides, if anything happened to the miss of the Shangguan clan, it would draw unwanted attention, and soon I'll be found out. The best way to keep quiet is to silence everyone. If they were a random person, that is. No, young Sanzi risked his life for her. Even if she's a nobody, I can't treat young Sanzi's sacrifice so frivolously. Zhuofan mulled things over, settling on letting this Miss Shangguan live. That meant he had to speed up his operation to minimize the already increasing risk. Miss Shangguan, we promised to forget about ever meeting and ever knowing each other. Farewell. Extricating his arm from her tight hug, Zhuofan gave a dry smile and ran. Shangguan Qingyan shouted after only 2 steps. Gu Yifan, stop right there. Zhuofan froze, looking back with a bright smile. What else can I do for you, Miss Shangguan? You still haven't told me your real name. You're going nowhere until you do. Shangguan Qingyan smiled. Zhuofan frowned. My name's Qianfan, ha ha ha. Fake for sure, humph. Grumbling, Shangguan Qingyan rolled her eyes. Zhuofan shrugged. Anything I say you'll think it's fake, so what's the point in saying it? Don't say it then and I won't ask again. Shangguan Qingyan's eyes twitched and then she grew quiet. But I do want to know one thing. Ask away, but it's up to you if you believe me. Is young Sanzi all right? Ugh. Zhuofan's face fell, taking a deep breath. He's still alive but unconscious. I came here to save him. You sneaked into the Sea Bright sect for young Sanzi? How are you going to save him? Don't worry about it. Just know that I must succeed. Oh, I see. Then you can rest assured that I'll never tell on you. Shangguan Qingyan turned serious as she promised. For you or for young Sanzi, I will keep your secret. Zhuofan smiled. I believe you will do it for young Sanzi. Then I'll go get ready. All right, till next time. Shangguan Qingyan was no longer difficult this time around, watching Zhuofan with hopeful eyes that he would pull through. Zhuofan nodded, then flew away and off this island. Shangguan Qingyan took a deep breath and had a sweet smile on her face as she went in another direction. Chapter 10-11, Northern Land's Best Disciple. Chapter 10-11, Northern Land's Best Disciple. Proofreader, Papatonks. Spring is in the air, with the bloom of flowers and the chirping of birds. In a quiet little home, Shangguan Qingyan's voice was heard as she sang, skipping around in a very good mood. Oh, Uncle Shangguan said that young Miss Shangguan has been down this past year, and I thought this silly sister was bothered with something. So I came to help. Now I see that sister is in good spirits. I must have gotten worried over nothing, ha ha ha. Shangguan Qingyan paused and looked back with a smile. Before her was the Southern Land's immortal healer Morong Shui, and her servant Zhuo'er. Sister Morong, you're here as well? Shangguan Qingyan cheered, and jumped in Morong Shui's embrace. Morong Shui patted her soft hair. With Northern Lands in danger and the other lands helping, Southern Lands is not about to stay behind either. Young Miss Shangguan, young Miss had missed you so much. When we came last time to Northern Lands to get medicine, she has always wished to go to Eastern Lands and see you, young Miss, again. But the Northern Lands came under threat, and Clan Head had to rush here. Young Miss wanted to visit you in Eastern Lands, then come to Northern Lands with Shangguan Clan. Only that in the Eastern Lands we realized you've already gone to Northern Lands, so young Miss rushed here on the double. She made quite the detour. Zhuo'er smiled at the two girls as she told them about her hard journey. Shangguan Qingyan was touched and broke the hug to look into Morong Shui's clear eyes as she grabbed her soft hands. You've been through so much, big sister. How could I repay you? This is nothing to you and Uncle Shangguan's hardship of taking back the soaring sword from the central area. Morong Shui glared at Shangguan Qingyan. Little sister, do I mean so little to you to not tell me about this huge matter about the stolen sword? Our four lands alliance aside, with our two clans so close, we would never have stood by during your plight. I just had to go to Shangguan clan myself in the Eastern Lands to know you've braved such terrible dangers, before making a detour to Northern Lands, and for the Sea Bright sect, without so much as a word of notice. Thank heavens you're all right. I wouldn't have known how to take your loss then. Wouldn't that be an insult to our clan's close friendship? Shangguan Qingyan gave the sullen Morong Shui a tight hug. Don't be angry, big sis. It's all my fault for not telling you. But I'm not the only one who deserves your anger. Who? Dad? Shangguan Qingyan giggled. After Shangguan Feiyun stole the soaring sword, someone proposed that we join hands with the Morong clan, but Dad refused. He said that it's our clan's problem, and not to involve others, as it would earn their ridicule once this matter was out. How are we to provide support when we can't even keep our sword safe? Won't that disgrace our clan? Morong Shui sighed and shook her head. That's the Uncle Shangguan I know, obsessed with appearances. Right? Big sister Morong, be sure to teach my stubborn dad a valuable lesson. How could I? He's a senior and we are juniors. How can we meddle in their affairs? Also, Morong Shui chuckled and sighed. Uncle Shangguan must have hesitated out of concern for our clan. With Southern Lands having no conflict yet with the central area, and a relative peace in place between us and the Sword Star Empire, I thus could still move about in their home. But by joining the matter of the stolen sword, it would bring many troubles to us. Shangguan clan is a righteous clan, and would never cause misfortune upon another. This is something I appreciate about Uncle Shangguan's character and pain. Shangguan Qingyan nodded in understanding. Yeah, Shangguan is righteous and the Morong clan is filled with justice. Despite being apart, we are the prime example for good in the five lands. How else would our two clans would have grown so close? Ha ha ha, that's what I call partners in notoriety. Ugh. Morong Shui smiled at first, then her face twitched as Shangguan Qingyan finished, whining. Sis Yenner, what was that? Nothing. I meant to say with valor and justice, thick as thieves oops. Covering her mouth, Shangguan Qingyan gave Morong Shui an awkward look, growing angry. It's all that Mina's fault for twisting my views. Morong Shui frowned and teased. Amini? Oh, the one Uncle Shangguan told me about that you've been pining for a year now. Dad told you. Shangguan Qingyan blushed hard with a lowered head, but a silly smile. Morong Shui nodded. Uncle Shangguan avoided specifics, only saying that you had a fling in the central area and turned sulky. But the way I hear it now, it might not be as simple as a fling. Dear little sister, you're head over heels, completely lovesick, ha ha ha. As if. Why not? Morong Shui teased. You used to be such a demure lady, and now you can't even speak straight. You must have picked up his speaking habits, ha ha ha. I bet your man isn't just anyone, and knows how to be blunt as well. Shangguan Qingyan blushed harder. No way, he's just a bit harsh with words. What about that cousin of yours, Shangguan Yulin, who used to stick to you like glue? How does he compare? Humph, that traitor isn't worth his shoes, Shangguan Qingyan sneered. Morong Shui shook her head. Love is blind. You're truly hopeless. I heard from Uncle Shangguan that Shangguan Yulin has a bad character, but he was well known in the lands for his looks and strength. If he can't even carry the guy's shoes, won't that mean your man is beyond outstanding? Ha ha ha. I don't believe there's anyone as great as Shangguan Yulin. Love is in the eyes of the beholder. Little sis is so in love she thinks the world of him. Shangguan Yulin's eyes shook and said with defiance, Big sis, you're too ignorant. The entire Shangguan clan witnessed his ability. Go ask Dad if you don't believe me. See how much Dad's praising him. That traitor Shangguan Yulin is nothing to him. Aren't you now arguing with me about his overestimated greatness? You even dare talk back to me, saying that I'm blind? Damn girl, want me to knock some sense into you? Morong Shui raised her hands with a sly grin, and unleashed her tickling attack on the love-struck girl. Shangguan Qingyan dodged while laughing for her to stop. Big sister Morong, please stop. I won't say it. You're not blind, you're narrow-minded. Hey, did you pick only his bad habits? This goes to show he isn't anything good. Yet you're still saying it? Morong Shui swung while Shangguan Qingyan kept dodging in good humor. The girls enjoyed themselves with Shuier giggling at the side in encouragement. Young Miss Shangguan, that's it. Keep at it, hi hi hi. The red bean trees in the south to grow / by spring they yield in heaps above. / I hope you pluck in plenty soon / because it is the gift of love. In the middle of their fun, a poem drowned the two girls' shrieks, unable to disturb the speaker's resounding voice. The girls halted their fun, and looked at the entrance. Thump. A man in a long robe and tied hair, a most refined scholar in demeanor and pace, walked in holding a snow plum flower in his hand. Morong Shui started at his appearance. Ouyang Changqing, you're out? Northern Land's best disciple Ouyang Changqing. Shangguan Qingyan giggled. I've been to Northern Lands a couple of times, but never had met you till now. Ouyang Changqing gave a bow and smiled. Young Miss Shangguan, I have been most of the time in seclusion. It's only natural to have yet to see me. Sister Shui, it's been a while. This snow plum flower is for you. Ouyang Changqing smiled as he presented the flower with respect and a smile. Morong Shui did not take it. It's too soon to be calling me like that. How so when it's just right? Ouyang Changqing beamed. Now that father has healed from his wounds and your brother is a guest in the Sea Bright sect, I shall ask father to request your brother to give me your hand in marriage. Then we can have an early wedding, ha ha ha. Chapter 10-12, Suspicion. Chapter 10-12, Suspicion. Proofreader Papatonks. What? Shangguan Qingyan looked in shock from Morong Shui and Ouyang Changqing, before settling on a smile. Big sis, you've been hiding your sweetheart all this time from me while even teasing me about my own. Now we get to celebrate your wedding with rounds of drinks. What's with that nonsense? Morong Shui glared at her, then looked into Ouyang Changqing's hopeful gaze. Brother Ouyang, have you forgotten our promise? Of course not. Ouyang Changqing spoke with pride, grasping the heavens, shaking the 5 lands, standing above everyone, and only below one. Morong Shui smirked. Then Brother Ouyang, which of these 4 have you achieved? While I have only fulfilled one, The other three are just a matter of time with this head start. While marriage is a way off, we can at least get engaged. My, how certain you are. What gives you such confidence? Morong Shui toyed. Ouyang Chongqing had his head held high, his chest out as he said, "It's obvious I'll grasp heaven. You know who my father is, the strongest in northern lands, Ouyang Lingtian, wielding the heaven-sealing sword. Won't the divine sword be passed down to me?" The 5 lands' divine swords aren't necessarily passed down in one's family, but based on ability. Morong Shui huffed. Ouyang Chongqing gave an understanding nod, his pride unaffected. "You're right. But if we are to leave father out of this, who am I exactly? The winner of the Northern Lands Great Disciple Competition. I am now the best disciple in Northern Lands and later shall take my father's place in becoming the best in Northern Lands. Sister Shui has to agree." Morong Shui flicked her head away, but still relinquished a nod. Ouyang Chongqing grinned. "As for shocking the lands, it will come with becoming the best in Northern Lands. And as for being under one man," Shangguan Qingyan asked eagerly, "with such high goals to be still beneath someone, who would that be? Is it that old freak invincible sword? Though it's kinda obvious since he hasn't been beaten for the last 10,000 years, and it's sure to stay like that for another few thousands." Ouyang Chongqing mocked. "Young Miss Shangguan, you're totally underestimating me. I am a man destined to cleave the heavens. Once I gain insight into heaven-sealing sword art, his invincible status will be a thing of the past. Humph. See, that's the type I hate the most, overconfident to the extreme. He's no different from those prancing wastrels everywhere. Saying that you're above invincible sword, without even meeting him, is sheer lunacy." Morong Shui's face was hard as she made eye contact with Shangguan Qingyan. Shangguan Qingyan bobbed her head, looking at him eagerly still. "Since even invincible sword is beneath you, then who will be the one above? Isn't it obvious?" Ouyang Lingtian cupped his hands at the sky with a straight face. "Family ties are most important. No matter how godlike I become, I shall remain father's son. Only my father can stand above me. As for standing above everyone, that'll come natural with the defeat of invincible sword, ha ha ha." Ugh. Shangguan Qingyan's heart sank as she looked at his obnoxious zealotry, feeling Morong Shui's pain. "Now I know what you mean by the 4 goals being simple. Besides you and your dad, everything is relative." "Not relative but destined to happen." Ouyang Chongqing spoke heavily. Morong Shui rolled her eyes. "Then do come again when the relative becomes reality. Sister Yenner, let's go inside and forget about this bore." Morong Shui threw the snow plum flower, taking Shangguan Qingyan's arm and walking inside. "I'd much rather have you tell me more about your man than listen to his obnoxious bragging." Shangguan Qingyan shrugged and followed after her, having no choice. Ouyang Chongqing cried from behind, "Sister Shui, I will succeed, believe me." "Believe your foot." Morong Shui cursed in her mind. "Chongqing, I believe you." A laughter came from nowhere as a familiar figure suddenly grabbed Ouyang Chongqing's arm. "Chongqing, it's been years since we saw each other, and my how much you've grown. Already in the 8th layer soul harmony stage. There's no disciple like you in the other 3 lands. The sky's the limit, I tell you, ha ha ha." Ouyang Chongqing lit up, having his ego stoked. "Brother Morong, it's been a long time. I missed you as well." Morong Shui paused and looked at Shangguan Qingyan with a sigh. "I just don't know what brother sees in him to even give his little sister away." "Shuer, did you say something?" "Nothing. Now that brother is here, does that mean you found clues to track them?" Morong Shui still held Shangguan Qingyan, as she went to give a slight bow. The smiling Morong Lai suddenly turned dark. "Don't remind me. Those 3 are like ghosts, vanishing off the face of the earth. Sea Cloud sect had been searching for 6 months now, but still came out empty. They must have left that area and all clues are gone. I could only come back. Who are they to have escaped the likes of Ardent Sun Sword God? Are they so great?" Shangguan Qingyan asked curiously. Ouyang Chongqing was also confused. With Brother Morong and the mighty forces of Sea Cloud sect scouring their domain, they should have been found in minutes. How can there be no trace at all? It's baffling. Brother Morong, would you care to tell me more about them? I shall gather all the men of the 5 sects and check everyone. We'll leave no stone unturned, but we'll definitely find them. No, please don't. It will only unsettle northern lands more. Invincible Sword's team is hidden, and causing such chaos will only work against us. They'll use this chance to slip in. Yeah, Schwer is right. There's no need to go through such lengths for just 3 people. Our true enemy is Bailey Yutian after all. Morong Lai gave a hard nod. Ouyang Chongqing pondered and relented. Does that mean, Brother Morong, that they're not from the central area? Who are they? Shangguan Qingyan picked up on Morong Lai's meaning. Morong Shui sighed. The man is as cunning as a demon, causing thousands of casualties in the central area then vanishing without a trace. Now he appeared in northern lands along with an expert that can fight my brother to a standstill. Just what is he up to? We're yet unsure in his stance regarding the northern lands conflict, but he is without a doubt a dangerous element. Not even Brother Morong could catch him? Just who is he? Shangguan Qingyan cried out, and Ouyang Chongqing looked at him with shock. Morong Shui was the one to explain still. I don't know who he is. Just that he left one name in the central area, Gu Yifan. What? Shangguan Qingyan gaped, almost thinking out loud. But she caught herself in time, though her face sank. How can it be him? Why are the Murongs after him? What now? As she was thinking of finding out, Ouyang Chongqing made it worse with his sigh. Just from the name I can tell he's bad. I never heard a more ugly name. Who in their right mind would use their real name when doing evil anyway? Morong Shui rolled her eyes at him. Ouyang Chongqing shrugged. Never mind, since we won't find him soon, not with a fake name and hiding his trail. I'm better off minding my own search. Brother Morong, want to come along? Who are you searching for? Morong Shui smirked. Sect leader Ling actually trusted someone as shallow as you to find someone suspicious? You're only going to scare them away. Ouyang Chongqing's mood deflated. Sister Shui, don't underestimate me. Sect leader Ling personally asked me to make the inquiries. A caravan just arrived at the sect, one belonging to the Qian clan, one of the 3 great merchant clans in northern lands. Sect leader found their steward, Qian Fan, to be odd and asked me to look into him. Qian Fan. Shangguan Qingyan paled, having recalled Zhuo Fan saying Qian Fan was his real name. While unclear if that was true, she believed that was the name he was using now. Curses, he even said to keep it a secret. Barely any time passed, and he's already under suspicion. Now that Morong brother and sister are after you, what do I do? Shangguan Qingyan was consumed by anxiety and worry. That damn man always knows how to make me uneasy. Chapter 1013, Strongest Barrier. Chapter 1013, Strongest Barrier. Proofreader, Papatonks. Looking at Shangguan Qingyan so distressed and jittery, everyone gave her an odd look, with Morong Shui asking, Sister Yenner, what is it? Something wrong? No. I just recalled something crucial that needs all of your dire attention. It all happened so fast that I suddenly cried out and startled you all. Don't look at me like that, ha ha ha. Shangguan Qingyan gave a strained laughter, her eyes shining. Morong Lai said, Oh, and here I thought you're familiar with Steward Qian. Brother Morong, that's a poor joke. Why would I know a northern lands merchant? Just when Brother Ouyang mentioned his name, I was reminded of a depressing matter. It's totally a coincidence, hee. Shangguan Qingyan strained to cover it all up, while the rest merely ignored it. Sister Yenner, you're all grown up yet so easily stirred. You should worry about being married off. I'll never marry, and stay with Sister Shui, hi. Shangguan Qingyan raised an eyebrow while hugging Morong Shui's arm. Rubbing her cute little head, Morong Shui smiled back. Morong Lai and Ouyang Chongqing looked at the 2 girls being so close, and just shrugged. Morong Lai then smiled at Shangguan Qingyan. Sister Yenner, what's the dire issue that needs my help? You can just say it. Well, looking hesitant, Shangguan Qingyan faltered as she beamed. It's something that Dad didn't want me to say, but recently he's been worried sick over it that I started worrying as well. Actually, Morong Lai turned serious. Brother Shangguan? It must be grave indeed for not even Shangguan clan head to not solve it. Yenner, Tell me everything, and maybe I can offer my help. Brother Morong, you must not say a word to Dad that I was the one who told you. You know how obsessed he is with appearances. Shangguan Qingyan put on a pained look as she spoke the big secret. Morong Lai and the others listened attentively, with Ouyang Changqing looking hopeful. Of course, Sister Yenner, we won't ever mention you. I'm actually very curious to know this secret, especially about such a big clan. Hee. Shangguan Qingyan rolled her eyes, glaring at him and scrounged up her nose, before sighing. To be quite frank, Brother Ouyang, we might have recovered the soaring sword from the central area, but it's now ruined. What? Morong Lai gasped. The 5 divine swords of the lands that can peel steel, cleave heavens, crush the earth, the strongest things in the world. Had one of them ended up ruined? Is there actually anyone who can do this? Brother Morong, what I meant to say by that is not the sword itself that is broken, but the sword spirit is sealed and can't unleash the divine sword's power. It's nothing more than a glorified paperweight. Shangguan Qingyan sighed. Dad and the 3 venerables had been tireless in trying to unseal it for the better part of the year, with no results. The sealing was very strong, leaving nothing they could use. That's why I wanted to ask Brother Morong if you could help Dad. Morong Lai turned grave and jerked as she called to him. He shouted, Brother Shangguan is just too foolish. This matter isn't as simple as having only eastern lands concerned, so he could just hide it from us. We all know how terrible Invincible Sword is. Without the Soaring Sword's help, how could we stop him? Thank you for sharing this with me. Or I fear we'd be in the dark, even as all 3 divine swords gathered to fight the old monster. Telling us at the last moment the Soaring Sword is broken would be seriously grave. Changqing, you tell your father to see Shangguan Feixiong. Swear, we're going right now to him, and understand the situation. That old man, how can he be so blind? By looking for majesty, he endangers the entire alliance. Morong Lai grew annoyed and cursed as he rushed for Shangguan clan's lodgings. Morong Shui was grave as she followed. With Danqing Shun taking the Western Land's divine sword, that only left 3 to fight off Invincible Sword. Now that 3 became 2, stopping that monster was impossible. He wasn't just strong by himself, but also wielded a divine weapon as well. Ouyang Changqing started, then said, Brother Morong, sect leader gave me a job to do. Isn't it just a checkup on a suspicious person? That can wait. The sealed soaring sword takes precedence. Go tell your father. Morong Lai shouted back as he flew away, with Morong Shui and Juer catching up. Ouyang Changqing nodded quickly, and went his own way too. Only Shangguan Qingyan was left standing there all alone. Giving sneak peeks around, Shangguan Qingyan darted away too, but in a completely different direction than the rest. Father, sorry, you're the only excuse I could think of. I have to warn that devil that he's about to be found out. Zhuofan had left the highest floating island, and after asking around, he flew to the lowest island to find his team. In a lone house in a secluded place, the occasional sea breeze blew, invigorating and refreshing. Having no mood to enjoy the view, Zhuofan went right inside the courtyard, then used the brass knocker on the large door. A cautious voice responded, Who is it? It's me, Steward Qian. Zhuofan glanced around for any signs of other people, and spoke softly. Creak. Open just a crack. A shifty face came into view, perking up at recognizing his boss, opened the door and welcomed him in. Zhuofan rushed right in, and once the door closed behind him, he looked around the room to find everything accounted for. Did anything happen? Nothing to us. Only you've been called out by Ling Yuntian for questioning. You didn't let anything slip, right? Bailey Yu stretched and smiled. Zhuofan's face sank. Bali Yu started and said, You didn't. You, with your twisted and insidious mind, that had even the patriarch flustered into sending me with you, couldn't even deal with one measly Ling Yuntian? What's wrong with you? It's easy to handle the old coot since we had no conflict, but Ling Yuntian is a cautious man, with the slightest mistake making him suspicious. What was I supposed to do? Hey, who are you calling an old coot? Say that again. Forget what I said. At Bailey Yu's suddenly savage look, Zhuofan shrugged and frowned at the rest. What about all of you? Have you found anything in the time you've been in the Seabright sect? Pa. One guard stepped forward with a bow. Sir, we've been talking with their disciples on our way here, and have a grasp of the surroundings. Seabright sect is made up of 3 floating islands called Beyond Heaven Island, Mid-Heaven Island and Beneath Heaven Island. The highest is where the important figures of the sect reside. The 3 lands experts are also staying there. It is the place where Sir has came from just now. Zhuofan nodded, having understood this. The Mid-Heaven Island, one in between the other 2, is where the disciples live, and some executives. The disciples of the 3 lands who came to help are also staying here. The man continued. As for the lowest island, that's where we are. Common guests are received and outer sect disciples train here. Zhuofan's brow shook, his eyes shining. That's it? Nothing else? Of course there's more. Baliyu cut the man off with a shout. Only this time she was dead serious. Seabright sect is like a huge prison. You can get in, but it will be hard to get out, including me. Zhuofan's eyes widened as he exclaimed. Why? Baliyu was a prideful sword king that even barged into Sun Sea sect on a killing spree for blocking her path. She held no fear even when fighting ardent Sun Sword God, knowing she could escape anytime. Yet when faced with the Seabright sect, she came out to say it was hard to leave it. This made Zhuofan tense and uneasy. Sir, the Seabright sect is far scarier than we thought. Baliyu remained silent, so the man cupped his hand and continued. Frigid Rain Sword King is right. The Seabright sect has the strongest barrier among all of the sects in the 5 lands. Not even a Sword King can break it. The minute our covers are blown, we will all be trapped. Chapter 1014 Crisis. Chapter 1014 Crisis. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuofan's brow shook, his eyes filled with doubt. The strongest barrier, one that even a Sword King can't breach. They all lowered their heads. Zhuofan spoke. Central area is the strongest. Central area has the most talents, with plenty of array masters. Yet they can't set up the strongest barrier, while the barren northern lands can? Well, they have that heaven-sealing divine sword. Baliyu added. Zhuofan rose an eyebrow, his eyes sharp. You mean the barrier is connected to the divine sword? That is indeed so, sir. The man bowed again. From our investigation, the Seabright sect's barrier relies on their divine sword to remain. No one in the lands knows the extent of the divine swords, because no one has managed to unleash their full power. But Seabright sect uses arrays to witness the might of their divine sword. The inner disciples told us that the heaven-sealing sword remains at the top of the Grand Hall on Beyond Heaven Island, while not in use. Through many arrays, the heaven-sealing sword's power is being leveraged to protect the sect by forming the strongest barrier. Sir, watch. The man opened a window and pointed at the calm sea. These waters hold the sea demon, of incredible power, defeating the best in northern lands with one strike. It had unleashed sky-high swells that drowned hundreds of Genesis stage experts. But even this amazing power failed to scratch the sect's barrier. This place is so safe and at peace, all due to the heaven-sealing sword's power. The sword is beyond anyone's comprehension. After hearing this as well, I went to check out the barrier. Sure enough, not a trace of my yuan qi can slip through, having no gaps I can use. I dare say that not even my full power can scratch it. Baliyu sighed and shook her head, like a hero past his prime. Looking at the peaceful waters, Zhuofan said. So what you're saying is that this great barrier isolates the sea demon from the Seabright sect. If I were to venture deeper into the sea and find the sea demon, I need to first break the barrier? Regarding that, the same guard frowned. I believe not even the strongest Baliyu Tian can do. Ahem. Baliyu's icy glare landed on the man, getting his attention as she cleared her throat. Sometimes it was best to leave her dear patriarch out of it. The man flinched and lowered his voice. Zhuofan's eyes shone. We have no choice but to take the heaven-sealing sword and break the barrier. Steal the heaven-sealing sword? Everyone cried out. The Seabright sect will know the instant it's taken, and they'll come at us in force. There'll be no escape for us. Zhuofan smirked. I'll be the one grabbing it, not you. So what are you afraid of? And once I get it, I'll run straight for the sea to find the sea demon. They'll only be following me to see the sea demon. As for you, you'll use the chaos to escape. Your mission is over. Sir, the risk is too great, be it going for the sea demon, or having the Sea Bright sect hunt you down. Zhuo Fan raised his hand to stop him, his mind made. That's an order. Ugh, yes, sir. They all saw Zhuo Fan's firm stance inside. Just then, there was a sudden knock at the door that got everyone jumpy. Who can it be? We're just a bunch of merchants. It can't be that Sea Bright sect is suspicious, right? Or is our cover blown so soon? Everyone tensed, with sweat trickling down their faces. Zhuo Fan shouted, "Who's there?" "It's me, open up." Zhuo Fan jerked and rolled his eyes with a sigh. "What's this wench doing here?" Zhuo Fan opened the door and Shangguan Qingyan burst right in, looking happy to see him. "It's really you. I was right, you're using Qian Fan as a cover." "Ha ha ha, yeah, now why are you here?" Zhuo Fan looked bitter. The rest relaxed, finding them so casual with one another. "Bali, you mocked. My, what a romantic you are, Qian Fan. You find charming friends wherever you go." "Who's she?" Shangguan Qingyan started at Bali Yu's presence. "A grandma the merchants gave us to stitch and babysit." "You're the grandma. Try mocking me again, and I'll pummel you." Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes at Bali Yu's outburst. Shangguan Qingyan looked at them, and her heart sank. She asked again, "Sir Gu, this is terrible. Sect leader Ling is suspicious of you, and sent the best disciple in northern lands, Ouyang Chongqing, to look into you." "What, that fast?" Zhuo Fan looked grave. He knew he was too flashy back then, but didn't think the gentle old man would be so responsive. He needed to act faster than the inspection. "Also, how did you get on Morong Lai's bad side? Sister and brother Morong are looking for you as well. But luckily you sealed Soaring Sword Spirit back then, and I mentioned it to them, so they can go help Dad with it. Or they would have come with Ouyang Chongqing to see you." Shangguan Qingyan complained again. Zhuo Fan's heart seized, a chill going up his spine. Not just sect leader Ling, but even Morong Lai. That was too close. With those two coming to see him, he'd be exposed on the spot. He wagered that being part of a merchant group, he'd have some time to use this cover and figure some things out to increase his odds. But reality showed he had none. Every second he remained here would only exacerbate the crisis. Zhuo Fan gave Shangguan Qingyan a deep bow, filled with sincerity. "Thank you, Miss Shangguan, for your timely assistance. Without you, I would have been in grave danger. I will never forget this." "Hey, it's all for young Sanzi." Shangguan Qingyan turned bashful, but a smile still formed. "Since Mr. Gu will remember this favor, would you be willing to trust me with your real name? How would I know if you're sincere if I don't even know your name?" Zhuo Fan paused, then looked in her hopeful eyes with a nod. "All right. I am Zhuo Fan of Western Lands." "Zhuo Fan?" Shangguan Qingyan's eyes shone as she smiled wider. "I'll remember it well. Better not be another fake name, or you'll be sorry. It's genuine, trust me. Only, you better not mention it to anyone, since I'm supposed to be dead." "How come?" "You'll know with time." Zhuo Fan smiled. "Oh right, you said Morong Lai went to deal with the sealed soaring sword. What about the others?" Shangguan Qingyan was quick to reply. Brother Morong had asked Ouyang Chongqing to find his father and go there as well. "That's good. Since war is knocking, the more people unsealing the sword the better and faster." Zhuo Fan's eyes shone as he planned his next move. Shangguan Qingyan hurriedly said, "Zhuo Fan, there's something I want to ask you. When you returned the soaring sword to the Shangguan clan, did you seal it on purpose?" "Oh, not at all. I sealed it when I had to deal with the soaring sword. Everything happened so fast that I forgot to unseal it." Zhuo Fan said, "You know as well how critical young Sanzi's condition was. I had no mind to worry about other things." "I know you didn't fool us on purpose," Zhuo Fan explained casually, and Shangguan Qingyan perked up on the spot, pecking his cheek. Everyone stood dumbstruck, even Zhuo Fan, his gaze lost in the distance and unresponsive. "My dad is the best in the northern lands," Ouyang Lingtian. And I am the best disciple in the northern lands. My name spread far and wide to every ear in the world. You must be filled with boundless gratitude and honor to have me paying you visit, he. Ugh. Zhuo Fan gave a bitter smile, noticing Bali Yu's smirk. The best disciple is indeed a true pompous fool, all right, the worst of them all in fact. Ha ha ha, sure. Young Master Ouyang's grand name has us all in awe. You're too kind, even if it's true, ha ha ha. Ouyang Chongqing puffed up and laughed as he entered. You're all merchants here. And not just pretending, right? Zhuo Fan knew where he was going but also knew his unstable character, so he smiled without fear. Young Master Ouyang. That's a good one, ha ha ha. She must be the madam, but what about the child? Did you throw her away since she isn't yours? Ha ha ha. Getting no rise out of Zhuo Fan, Ouyang Chongqing ramped up his questioning, bordering provocation. Everyone's faces fell, and turned to Zhuo Fan. This was an attempt to provoke their emotions. Any parent would be outraged, with even a flatterer would be offended, while a suspicious person would try and remain calm. It was this difference in reactions that determined whether there was something off or not about the target. Being overly angry wouldn't do since they were merchants, and shouldn't offend some big sex disciple. While too calm was also out of the question, as it showed everything was a mere act. While Ouyang Chongqing was scanning their faces for any clue that gave them away, he heard a cursing coming from another room. You damn brat, you're the fake son here. You came here to talk rubbish. Is that it? Well, my dad is going to kick you out. Xiao burst out and snapped at Ouyang Chongqing in anger. Hey, where are her manners? Didn't your parents teach you anything? Please don't get angry. I've always spoiled her. Children speak all kinds of crazy things, ha ha ha. Ouyang Chongqing's face twitched, being talked back to by a child. Zhuo Fan apologized then shouted at Xiao. What are you doing here? Get back inside. Xiao huffed and stormed inside, with Bali Yu slipping a sneaky thumbs up. Ouyang Chongqing took a deep breath, annoyed still. He came here to check them, and barely got any words out as a damn brat started cursing at him. Is the child suspicious too? Was all that an act? Now what does a brat know? Ignoring all that, having gone through that disturbing event, Ouyang Chongqing chose to give up on testing the married couple, now taking a different approach. But then a familiar shout called to him from outside. Ouyang Chongqing, get out here this instant. We're not done with yesterday's fight. That sounds awfully familiar. Zhuo Fan frowned, while Ouyang Chongqing rolled his eyes and walked outside. Yenmo, among Western Lands juniors, you're among the best, so you should at least act like it. Yesterday I sparred with you but you still want more? Have you no shame coming after me again? Can it? We fought just once, and you're already calling yourself the best disciple in the 5 lands? That you stomped on the Western Lands? Where's your dignity? Another shout came from outside, this time filled with rage. Zhuo Fan jerked. Yenmo, people from Western Lands are here as well? Oh crap, I can't let them see me. Zhuo Fan gave the others a grave look, and pointed at his face then outside with a shake of his head. They shrugged, stuck as well. Ouyang Chongqing, close by, had yet to notice Zhuo Fan's reaction, still nagging with Yenmo outside. Now you're saying that defeating you isn't defeating Western Lands? When I asked if you represented Western Lands in our fight yesterday, you were pretty smug calling yourself the strongest in Western Lands. Now that you lost, you no longer represent your home? And Yenmo sneered, always striving to be the best. I finally got a good fight, so how can I just let it pass me? Anyway, since I know that I'll be the best in Western Lands sooner or later, that's enough. But then you, the son of the best in Northern Lands, had to go around all smug as you declared yourself winner over Western Lands after one fight. Have you no shame? You're the shameless one, bragging to my face like that. Ouyang Chongqing's face twitched, lost for words. Chapter 10:16. The Fight for Strongest Disciple. Chapter 10:16. The Fight for Strongest Disciple. Proofreader Papatonks. Whoosh. A sudden figure landed next to Yenmo, who looked at Ouyang Chongqing with a smile. Brother Ouyang, is it? I've heard of your matter from brother Yenmo, and while he thirsts for battle, his conceit is his fault, But Brother Ouyang taunted him to fight. And after you won, you proclaimed yourself to have beaten Western Land's disciple, leaving us with no self-respect. That's not very gentlemanlike. We've been invited to Northern Lands, and to lend a hand as well. But to use us to make a name for yourself isn't right. How so? I at least am not like you, prancing around falsehoods, calling yourself the best in Western Lands when you have nothing to show for it. You got me excited about beating you for nothing. Besides, I am the best disciple in the Northern Lands and don't need you to be well known. Humph, ridiculous. Ouyang Changqing mocked. And who are you anyway? The newcomer cupped his hands. I am Wu Qingqiu from Ultimate Clarity sect of Western Lands. I have learned with Brother Yin Mo in the Double Dragon manner, becoming fellow disciples. Zhuofan's heart jumped, while his face looked frozen. Even Wu Qingqiu is here. Western Lands really plan on helping Northern Lands. Or is it to let these kids gain experience? Won't that mean she is also? Zhuofan's heart seized, alarmed. Wu Qingqiu, a disciple from Double Dragon Manor as well. Not even seeing Zhuofan's wince, Ouyang Changqing sized Wu Qingqiu up and asked, I know the status of Double Dragon Manor in Western Lands, and any that enter are talented people. I can't help but wonder how you fare compared to Yin Mo here? Wu Qingqiu smiled. There's not much difference between us, we're sparring partners. He's a third stronger than me, and I have yet to beat him once. Yin Mo sighed and pointed at Wu Qingqiu, not ashamed to reveal his losses. Ouyang Changqing nodded. I see, so you're the true best disciple in Western Lands. I understand now why you came so late to Northern Lands, to save the best for last. Oh no, young Master Ouyang, you got it all wrong. No, I don't. Yin Mo came 10 days ago, but I understand his character, arrogant and overbearing. Even when I defeated him yesterday, he still wouldn't surrender, a real man. Giving a thumbs up of praise to Yin Mo's perseverance, Ouyang Changqing turned to Wu Qingqiu. But now that he says so much about you, I come to realize that he truly accepts you as stronger. For someone like him to do that, then it can only mean that you have to be the best disciple in Western Lands. Wu Qingqiu shook his head. Young Master Ouyang, you're still missing the point. There's no need for explanations. Didn't you come today to get your brother's confidence back? Ouyang Changqing cut him off, puffing his chest and declaring, Fine, this afternoon, I'll meet you on stage. The first disciple in Western Lands versus the first disciple in Northern Lands will fight to see who is the strongest disciple in the lands, and the future best in the lands. If I lose, I will take my words from yesterday's fight back in front of everyone. But if you lose, then you'll have to admit that the Western Lands juniors have fallen at my feet. But this time, you're not going to say you are also putting up a tough front and aren't the best in Western Lands either, right? Wu Qingqiu gave him a long look, then showed a cold smile. Fine. Since young master said so much, backing down now will make me look afraid. Then this afternoon, we will fight in the arena on the Mid-Heaven Island. Not Mid-Heaven Island, but beneath Heaven Island's stage. Ouyang Changqing raised his head high. That is where everyone in the sect can come witness our fight. Or you don't want people to see the battle of the strongest. With all those sharp eyes on us, no one can play dumb on the outcome. Wu Qingqiu's face twitched and nodded. Fine. Since Brother Ouyang has a penchant for fame, we will oblige. Though young master, the higher you aim, the harder the fall from grace, especially from such a big stage. I have always been triumphant in all my pursuits, showered in applause and the crowd's reverence. I don't know the meaning of falling. Flicking his silky hair away, Ouyang Changqing mocked. Brother Wu, you're best worried about yourself, lest you fail miserably. Wu Qingqiu squinted and cupped his hand as he shouted, Goodbye. He took Yin Mo away with heavy steps. Watching them go, Ouyang Changqing turned back and came inside Zhuofan's home. Hear that? I just received a challenge to fight with the Western Lands for the best in the world. I don't have time to waste on you, and need to tell all my fellow disciples to come see me fight. Oh, of course, talented young Master Ouyang is bound to be victorious, ha ha ha. Zhuofan beamed, easing his tense nerves. Great, now this fool is finally leaving. That should at least give me peace and quiet for today. Since Ling Yuntian had sent this kid to look into them, and had yet to show results, he couldn't attack them just yet. And since the plan was to move tonight, their odds were looking good. A true Central Area spy wouldn't have acted so soon. But Zhuo Fan's team was doing it to turn things around and catch them off guard. Zhuo Fan gave the others a look, who smiled and nodded in return. His joy was short-lived as Ouyang Chongqing paused. Also, Steward Qian, bring your group over this afternoon to watch me crush Western lands. You can't miss it. Zhuo Fan looked conflicted. Young Master Ouyang, we've come a long way and aren't even part of the sect. It's best that we don't interfere in the sect and Western lands disciples' conflict. You're too polite. With your group traveling so much, it's rare for you to come to our sect. It's my duty to entertain you guys. We could never impose on the young master's grand hospitality. And we also like peace and quiet. Not a fan of bloody fights. Those brutal competitions are. They say merchants know how to read people, so why don't you get it yet? Ouyang Chongqing stomped and snapped at them. You're a merchant traveling the lands, gathering information, or better yet, bearing information. I want you to witness the fight, so you can spread my heroism to others, so that everyone would know of my feats, of defeating the best disciple in Western lands, and soon to become the best disciple in all the lands. If only our disciples know this and spread it around, they'll say we're insidious and conceited. What would be the point of today's win then? Zhuo Fan jerked, giving him a long look and a nod. Oh right, young master has such foresight, thinking of the people and their opinions. You're a true man of valor, the greatest in northern lands. Just the best. Totally, but this isn't bragging, just the facts. Greatness can never be hidden no matter how modest you are. Like myself, a genius of unparalleled talent, it would be a huge loss for humanity not to let everyone know of my true value. Flicking his silky hair once more, Ouyang Chongqing had a look of utter pride plastered on his face, then patted Zhuo Fan's shoulder. Come early this afternoon, or I'll send someone for you instead. I'm not to blame if they're a bit rough compared to me with their invitation. Some people just don't know a good thing when they see it so petty. Zhuo Fan grimaced as he gave a helpless nod. This damn pompous fool only knows how to brag. I really want to punch him in the face. Oblivious to the others' thoughts, Ouyang Chongqing left in glee. I'll notify Sister Shui of this fight right away. She wasn't there at my fight with Yan Mo, and had missed my greatest moments. But now she's definitely going to see everything, he. Zhuo Fan sighed as he left, then turned to the others. I hate his type the most, so impulsive and conceited. They always have a knack of messing things up. Only the heavens know what the hell is going on in that mushy brain of theirs. Goes to show something always goes wrong. You may be able to talk your way out of trouble with the older and cunning seniors, but come short when dealing with brats. Bali Yu smirked. Zhuo Fan shook his head. This punk only wants to make it big to get as many eyes as possible on him. With there being so many of us, having a couple less won't be noticed. Also, with his obnoxious attitude, he's definitely going to blow this simple match out of proportions. This will lax the guard and give us the perfect chance. You don't need to come to the fight. You'll be scouting out beyond Heaven Island, especially Heaven Sealing Sword's location. You only have that afternoon to get a grasp of the place, moving in once night falls. As for the rest of you, the minute the punk finishes the match, rush to the exit of the sect, and get ready to leave? Got that? Crystal, everyone shouted with solemn looks. Bali Yu showed an awfully cheerful smile watching him plan. Chapter 1017 Her. Chapter 1017 Her. Proofreader Papatonks. Senior brother. Senior brother. On that sunny afternoon, what should have held a measly 10,000 disciples, the stage on Beneath Heaven Island was packed with over 5 times that. There were fervent faces anywhere one looked, holding out 2 spiritual weapons, and clanging them together in an unhealthy cheer for the one and only Ouyang Chongqing. Zhuo Fan wore an eagle mask as he looked around the literal mob shouting in one voice bursting his eardrums, and his only reaction was his twitching face. The fool is the master of the stage. Just the mood alone is enough to bore down on the Western Lands group. Ha ha ha. With this being the Sun Sea Bright Sect's home, Ouyang Chongqing is like the big bad boss. A guard next to him nodded. Zhuo Fan mocked. Well, true, this is clearly overdoing it. Sometimes, the more you hype it, the more it makes you look like a thug who's overcompensating for something. Even if he wins now, it'll have the vibe of having gotten his way, and not that of the modest man striving to do better. In the end, youth is impulsive. Sir, you sound like a droning senile. Another guard teased. Zhuo Fan sighed. It's called experience that ages the mind and reigns in the raging hormones of youth. But this is how youth should be, rash and crazy. To stand out, one must copy Ouyang Chongqing here. To grow wings, to pave their future, and to be oblivious to the dangers of the world. He only wants to excel disregarding anyone and anything, making him very susceptible to a crooked and deceptive path. As for the old, they have too many things and take measured steps forward lest they lose it all. This brings about a tranquility to them. While youth is easy prey to deception due to their ignorance, the shrewd seniors have their cautious possess them. Being afraid to lose anything, taking hold of just a bit will gain control of them. Thank you, sir, for these words of wisdom. The guard bowed. I see sir acting with force and also making leaps forward. I wonder in which category sir falls? Zhuo Fan chuckled. Old ha ha ha, I'm an old demon through and through. If so, sir, I see nothing that could make you relinquish control. That's because I'm hiding it well, out of sight of any prying eyes. Showing my weakness will be no different than presenting my neck. Many oldies notice, but I do it particularly well. Ha ha ha, are you guys planning something for me? No, never. We only listen to the second young master's words. Sir is wise beyond your years, and we're lucky to hear your guidance. The guard bowed again. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Wu Randong had gone through a hard time and wants revenge, which means he doesn't trust anyone. He had you follow me to find out about me, didn't he? Though I don't mind. If I can't even hide my secrets from you guys, an oldie like me is better off retiring while he's ahead. Sir, we would never. Everyone bowed. Zhuo Fan didn't mind it, his eyes flashing. Ouyang Chongqing finally appeared before them, looking startled at Zhuo Fan's mask. Steward Qian, what's with the new look? Ha ha ha, young master Ouyang. I'm just playing with my daughter and lost. Now she made me wear this ugly mask for the day. Zhuo Fan pointed at Chower as he said. Ouyang Chongqing gave him a long look then mocked. Why take any game with a child seriously? Having come to my grand performance, you ought to cheer for me. You're only making others laugh with that childish mask. You better take it off. Ouyang Chongqing reached for it. Hands off. Father, promise me. If you don't like it, chew. Chower shouted, stepping between them. Zhuo Fan dodged as well with a smile. Forgive me, young master. I have given my word. I am a father that needs to set an example for my child. Oh, Steward Qian is a great father, putting parenting first. Ouyang Chongqing gave a nod of admiration. It takes me back to my own father, who also used to coax me in my childhood, saying he'd let me ride his shoulders. And later? There is no later. He lied to me, never holding his word all these years. Ouyang Chongqing gave a long sigh. That's why I hate liars the most. Last night Yin Imo lied to me, and today I'm going to give Western Lands a lesson they won't soon forget. Zhuo Fan looked stunned then nodded. Oh, young Master Uinag had such a sad childhood. It pains me to hear it. Yeah, I never told anyone about this. You're the first. Patting Zhuo Fan's shoulders, Ouyang Chongqing glanced at Chower then at him with seriousness. Promise me you will never lie to her. I will. Zhuo Fan gave a bitter smile. After giving him one last hopeful look, Ouyang Chongqing left. Zhuo Fan found his attitude quite funny from where he was standing, commenting, Every little devil has a painful past. No wonder Ouyang Chongqing grew up parading himself. His father failed his promise in giving him a ride. How sad to be lied to by your dad all these years. Everyone lowered their heads. This pompous fool has yet to experience real pain. Ouyang Chongqing has such style. A shout reached them that sounded familiar. Yen Mo and every elite disciple from Western lands made their appearance onto stage. There was also one particular person Zhuo Fan could not take his eyes off. Zhuo Fan shook all over and caught himself, his eyes laced with pain as he balled his fists and clenched his teeth. Everyone was taken aback by his reaction. "What's wrong, sir?" Zhuo Fan's eyes began to tear up. None of them had ever seen the ever-wise Zhuo Fan lose his cool. They looked ahead at the fluttering white veil, and at the delicate figure hiding behind, shivering even from a light breeze. She only looked to be holding on thanks to the two girls attending to her. Ouyang Chongqing puffed his chest and strutted before Western Land's group among the deafening roars. "Can't I invite some of my fellow disciples to watch my fight?" "Of course you can." Wu Qingqiu cut off Yin Mo's attempt to speak. "It is your sect, and it's in your right to have the fight between the strongest disciples of our lands witnessed. It's just that we have someone ill among us that the sudden excitement would be detrimental. Could I ask for your disciples to be a bit quieter?" "Ill?" Ouyang Chongqing glanced at the white veil and smirked. "Her? Just why have you brought her anyway? Is this how you're helping our northern lands? 3 days ago, sect leader ordered me to go to your land and greet you, where I learned that you are bringing an ill person, frail, and of vacant mind. Why is she even here? And now you're telling me a bit of noise will disturb her? Forgive us. Her husband passed away 5 years ago, and her mind has been lost since from the pain. We've tried everything, even pills, but it is out of our hands." Wu Qingqiu sighed and looked at the white veil in sadness. Her husband died in a huge explosion, and now she can't stand loud noises scaring her. But her husband was also a rare genius, his most notable battle being against the current best disciple in Western lands, Yi Lin. We hoped that by recreating that image would help her recover. Alas, few are those that can be on par with junior brother Yi Lin. Maybe young Master Ouyang might just be the one. So we brought her along with this hope in mind. Ouyang Chongqing roared in anger. "So you're taking this fight as medicine for a dumb woman? Do you have any idea how important this fight is to me? Yet you're just trying to use me. Is that it?" "Of course not. I want you to fight the best disciple in Western lands, to establish yourself as the best disciple in the lands. We're only using this chance to save our junior sister. What is wrong with that?" Wu Qingqiu stared Ouyang Chongqing in the eye. Chapter 10:18 Of One Heart. Chapter 10:18 Of One Heart. Proofreader Papatonks. Ouyang Chongqing glared at them and roared. "This isn't a play for you to enact, but a sacred competition. What is equally matched? I'm not about to throw the match over a demented woman, just so you can have your act. Brothers, I want to hear you cheer. Senior brother. Senior brother." Sea Bright sect disciples exploded in an even bigger uproar, constantly clanging their spiritual weapons. The whole stage rumbled from the noise, and as it thundered in the lady's ears behind the white veil, it made her shiver in fright. The two girls helping her held her close to soothe her, their eyes filled with tears. Wu Qingqiu grew angry as he shouted back. "Ouyang Chongqing, you're a man coming from a respectable clan. Are you not aware that saving a life makes everything worth it? And we're allies as well. You can't even do this little effort? I will never give up no matter what, and I'll be damned if I'll play your little role you have for me, just over some crazy woman. A fake match won't deceive her. We've tried that already. Her mind might be lost but not her eyes. We only want to see the same power struggle we had in the Western lands back then. We think that only you can do it, and don't need anything from you, just to give your all. Is that too much to ask?" Wu Qingqiu shouted at him. Ouyang Chongqing flicked his head away, not willing to cave. Bam! A youth filled with savage aura stepped in Yi Lin. Glaring at Ouyang Chongqing, Yi Lin mocked. "I have no interest in the fight between Western lands and Northern lands' strongest disciples. The only reason I even accepted fighting such a mundane guy like you is to help Sister Qingsheng. But now, humph, I think you're in need of a harsh lesson. You're far from ever being my match. You're the best disciple in Western lands." Ouyang Chongqing squinted with a cold smile. "Fine, come teach me then. If you're just another pretender, then I'll have Wu Qingqiu answer for it once I'm through with you. I don't care who calls himself the best disciple in Western lands. I'll be finding him once I go through all of you. Senior Brothers Almighty! Senior Brothers Almighty! The roaring of the crowd once again exploded, and Qingqing shuddered in the two girls' embrace from terror. Western Land's group gnashed its teeth, with Yilin filled with murder. Why don't we take Qingqing back? She shouldn't be here and take this. Shui Ruohua, holding Chu Qingqing close, said with tears. The others gave a helpless nod. Since Ouyang Changqing was so against it, staying here would only hurt her more. But this bastard Ouyang Changqing has to be put in his place. Every one of them only felt rage and fury for this arrogant prick, wanting to beat him to a pulp. Ouyang Changqing didn't care, since this was his sect, his home, and he had the numbers if it came down to a brawl. As the two sides were at odds, one hand extended in front of Chu Qingqing's eyes as a man with an eagle mask spoke. Miss, it's much quieter where I'm staying. Would you care to sit with me? A fight between two Land's strongest disciples shouldn't be missed. Sorry, sir, she needs peace and quiet. I'll take her back. Shui Ruohua gave him a look, then an awkward smile as she refused. Ouyang Changqing was annoyed. Steward Qian, why would you want that crazy woman around you? Also, I know I chose your seat specifically, but it's not that quieter either. Once the fighting starts, it'll be bad for you when the crazy woman starts losing it. Hey, what did you say? Qingqing's mind is only vacant, not crazy. Say that again. Shui Ruohua snapped at him. The people around got enraged as well, judging by those glares. Zhuo Fan ignored it all and tearfully gazed at Chu Qingqing. It's really quiet there, believe me. You'll be safe. Sir, we appreciate the gesture, but Qingqing is too frightened and would never let strangers touch. A sudden chill took her then, noticing that the shivering Qingqing in her arms no longer shook as she calmed down. Her dainty hand even reached out, to the shock of all present, placing it in Zhuo Fan's wide hand. How is this possible? Shui Ruohua widened her eyes as she and the Western Lands group watched in disbelief. Chu Qingqing had lost her fame as a cold beauty ever since her husband passed away, and her mind couldn't take it. Few people approaching her. Afterward, she hardly met anyone, shunning almost anyone that approached, finding peace only around her two sisters. But today, to this stranger, she reached out on her own. Why? She's even scared of her acquaintances. Elder brother. Only Yilin knew Zhuo Fan to be alive and well. He muttered under his breath, watching the man with the eagle mask with a knowing gaze. Bro had been away for so many years. Now he's finally back. Holding Chu Qingqing's hand, Zhuo Fan led her to his spot, under the shock of everyone. With every step his heart bled. I left to spare her the pain, but now I see that I hurt her the most. Was I wrong? Chu Qingqing's veil fluttered, hiding her face, like that of a child, as she followed Zhuo Fan. Despite the uproar outside, her heart has found peace. The hand felt so familiar to her, and it now became her world, knowing there was nothing to fear as long as she held it. Her mind was vacant and knew not who he was, nor the ones around her, but their hearts had once been one, something that would never change. Even without needing to see his face, his mere presence made her know by instinct that he was hers. And she his. Under the dumb looks of everyone, Zhuo Fan took Chu Qingqing to his seat, in Bali Yu's place. Glancing at Qiao'er, Zhuo Fan said, Qiao'er, say hello to Mother. Mother. Qiao'er could feel a rare warmth from Zhuo Fan's gaze and called out. The others looked at him and one guard sighed. Sir, we only knew you to be cunning and ruthless, but now we see there's a gentle side as well. But this also revealed to us your weakness. Zhuo Fan sighed a nod. Yeah, but she can never be my weakness, because I'll always take her with me from now on. They will have to walk over my cold corpse before they can touch her. I will be her shield, and as long as I stand no one can use her. Zhuo Fan looked at Chu Qingqing with hazy eyes, not knowing if she understood any of it. Her eyes were still vacant, her expression tranquil, like that of an infant sleeping. Only her hand shook slightly. Shui Ruohua and the others saw Chu Qingqing, so at peace around a stranger, they didn't know how to react, needing a moment to come to and go to her. Even so, They still couldn't tell who Zhuofan was since he had been dead to them for 5 years now. The guards knew how to act, and seeing the two girls looking after Chu Qingcheng, they made way, standing with the other disciples to watch the fight. Now that the mental patient is taken care of, we can begin. But let me reiterate, I will not throw the fight. Ouyang Changqing shouted once more. At which the mob of disciples coming to cheer roared once more. Only this time, Chu Qingcheng no longer shook in fear, holding to the lifeline, the hand that would give her peace. This only baffled Shui Ruohua. Yi Lin had a cold smile as he stood on stage, smirking at Ouyang Changqing. Then allow me to teach young master some manners. I'd hate to shame my elder brother for not taking care of my sister-in-law. Chapter 10:19, You Know Me Best. Chapter 10:19, You Know Me Best. Proofreader Papatonks. Yi Lin and Ouyang Changqing stood on the wide stage, with the executives present doing their duty in erecting a barrier to isolate their fight. The loud and raving cheers cut off as well, unable to reach the two fighters. One is a great talent of Western Lands youth, the other is the best disciple in Northern Lands. I wonder how it will turn out. This'll be good. I put my money on Changqing. He's been training in heaven-sealing sword art since he was young, and he also had brother Ling Tian to nurture him all these years. While Double Dragon Manor trains the most elite disciples, they have lost the best period in life, starting too late. And with the loss of vaulting sword, the kid had no chance of learning of the vaulting sword art. The ending is obvious. That's too soon to tell. Yes, being trained early will help correct any bad habits that might form, but the way Western Lands selects its disciple is from their very best, with each having a specialty. After all, vaulting sword art's character is one of harmony. Western Lands does it so that every disciple gets to further amplify their strengths when they learn from the vaulting sword. It's the best way of training in the vaulting sword art, and bring about the greatest talent ever seen. But their vaulting sword is lost. Be that as it may, I heard that the best disciple in Western Lands has such an outstanding talent that makes not learning the vaulting sword art a moot point. How reliable is that info? Now I'm really eager to see how far talent alone can get him against a disciple having learned from a divine sword. Ouyang Changqing did such a great job at spreading the news of his fight, that, just like Zhuofan predicted, many elders from beyond Heaven Island came over as well. They hovered above, with eager and hopeful eyes. Just like the roaring mob of disciples below, they were just as interested to see who the best disciple among these two was, but without all the fanaticism. Yi Lin took a deep breath looking at Ouyang Changqing with a smirk and invitation. After you, lest people say I pick on the weak. You got some nerve acting all smug before me when you're only in the second layer of soul harmony stage. How in the world did you even get to be the first disciple? With that kind of cultivation, is anyone's guess. Ouyang Changqing mocked back, although focused on looking around the audience. Not here still? I even had to insist for 2 hours to get her to agree. Why isn't she here yet? Ouyang Changqing hesitated. Yi Lin's brow shook. Where are you looking? Scared? Get over yourself. I am a great 8th layer soul harmony stage expert. You must be dreaming if you think I'd be scared of someone in the 2nd layer. Ouyang Changqing huffed with disdain, but still scanned the crowd. Such a grand performance comes by rarely. You're turning all my effort and grand heroic performance into wasted effort with your absence, Sister Shui. Sister Shui, quick, it's about to start. Meanwhile, in another area, Shengguan Qingyan kept pulling Morong Shui's arm, running over to the hustle and bustle heard for miles. Morong Shui rolled her eyes. It's just that pompous prick showing off. What are you getting all excited about? I know Ouyang Changqing is the best disciple in Northern Lands with hardly anyone lasting 5 strikes, but his opponent this time is the best disciple in Western Lands. Maybe it'll be a great fight for once. You don't want to see if there are such experts among our peers? Shengguan Qingyan had a very good reason, yet when she arrived at the show, her eyes were everywhere but the stage. She had even less interest in Ouyang Changqing's high-class act. The only reason she came was because she heard Zhuofan's group was here to cheer for him. So she thought of an excuse to get Morong Shui to come as well. Was she worried at all that maybe Morong Shui would figure Zhuo Fan out? Absolutely not. She believed Zhuo Fan had taken precautions since he chose to come here. And 2, once she spotted him, she'd dump Morong Shui and would shield him from anything. This way they'd also get close. What could possibly go wrong? Having run her plan countless times through her mind, no matter how shallow, she would have Morong Shui as an excuse when coming to the fight anyway. Morong Shui had no clue of her intentions, beginning to assess the fight. Yenner, Ouyang Chongqing is strong in the end. While he always carries himself with flair and idles away like a true pompous fool, his upbringing has been perfect. He had started seclusion with his father when he was 5, to understand the heaven-sealing sword art. Not even I can last more than 20 moves against him. Won't that mean the best disciple in Western lands is going to lose? Shangguan Qingyan giggled. Sister Shui is the strongest disciple in Southern lands. But for even you to say you're going to lose, won't that mean he has won over Southern lands' youth? While Eastern lands' strongest disciple was that cousin Yulin. Though even alive he wouldn't be a match to Sister Shui. That means Eastern lands lost as well, which leaves Western lands needing to defeat their best disciple to be the best disciple of the 4 lands. Morong Shui gave a helpless nod. Yeah, now you know why he blew this fight out of proportions? He's about to be the best disciple in the 4 lands. A very good reason to celebrate. And with Western lands being the last among the lands, their best disciple is definitely going to fall way short. Now the entire fight had turned into a spectacle for him to look good. That's why I don't feel like coming only to watch his obnoxious grin getting wider. Hehehe, of course he's obnoxious. Shangguan Qingyan teased. It will go along with your promise. His win will make him the best disciple in the lands, and give some credence to becoming the second invincible sword one day in the future. Morong Shui sneered. Best in the lands? Second invincible sword? Haha, that's rich. Even if he wins against Western lands today, his winning streak will stop here. There's one among our peers he can never defeat. He has the highest chance of becoming the second invincible sword. Who? Shangguan Qingyan's brow shook, shouting eagerly. It can't be him, right? Morong Shui turned heavy as she spoke. Central Area Sword Star Empire's crown prince, Bailey Jingtian. Him? Yeah, just another Bailey. Morong Shui shook her head with a sigh. I've once gone to the Central Area and met with the prince on several occasions. The Bailey clan is truly incredible, filled with talents and in constant growth. I believe that even 100 years after Invincible Sword, that clan will shock the world with another incredible figure. At the very least, their top 10 princes are on par with the best disciples in the lands. With the first 4 being above us, I couldn't even last a blow against Bailey Jingtian. He's really the second coming of Invincible Sword. Shangguan Qingyan's eyes shook. We really are hopeless. Our homes will all be united under Sword Star Empire's tyranny, with everything destroyed. Yeah, their strength breeds fear and despair. Morong Shui sighed, looking desolate. It was Prime Minister Bailey Jingwei who set up the meeting with the princes. He was then looking to persuade my brother. That's why he put on such a display to intimidate us. I have to admit it worked. Seeing those princes' power, and the immense potential of the Sword Star Empire, made me realize with each passing day that we are on our last leg. While we are fighting over who's the best, the Sword Star Empire already took that title, rising to their glory. Maybe the next time, the 4 lands would end up crushed under its power. That's why I feel Ouyang Chongqing's fanfare and conceit, as the best disciple in the 4 lands, as empty words. Shangguan Qingyan nodded in understanding, sighing. Sister Shui has seen much unlike us. Being so competitive and drunk on fame is truly childish. Sister Shui, you're here at last. I've waited ages for you. Ouyang Chongqing's eager shout reached Morong Shui, waving in excitement. Shangguan Qingyan and Morong Shui had a bitter smile and shook their heads. In such desperate times, he had the leisure to compete over who the best in the alliance was. It only helped to make his childish image in their minds more pronounced. Or to be more accurate, naive. Zhuo Fan tensed seeing Morong Shui here, lowering his head. Chu Qingqing reached out by herself and held Zhuo Fan's hand, gripping both of them tightly, as if to console him, although her eyes were still vacant. Sorry, sir, she doesn't know what she's doing. Shui Ruohua startled at Chu Qingqing's action, wanting to take her hand back at once. It just wasn't proper to do that with a stranger, especially a man. They'd really take her for a crazy woman. Zhuo Fan stopped her, sighing as he gazed into Chu Qingqing's deep and vacant eyes. After all these years, you know me best. Chapter 10:20 Tide. Chapter 10:20 Tide. Proofreader, Papatonks. Sir. Shui Ruohua shook at Zhuo Fan's words. Have you met Qingqing before? With Chu Qingqing's vacant mind, she would usually avoid anyone who got close, except in this man's case. She actually took initiative. What was even more baffling, no acquaintance could achieve this, not as easily as this man. It could only mean that he had to be a very close friend to Qingqing, closer than even her fellow sisters. Zhuo Fan said, You could say we are close, but I just can't believe that after all these years, she became like this. I see, sir must be an old friend of Qingqing. Shui Ruohua nodded inside. Life is in constant change, and Qingqing has suffered so much these years. When her husband passed Shui Ruohua was filled with grief, speaking of Chu Qingqing's matters these years, though it felt more like using a shoulder to cry on. Zhuo Fan listened quietly, about his loving wife's troubles, with each word stabbing his heart. The sorrow he felt for her brought him to tears. But he gnashed his teeth and bore through them, forcing those bitter tears to be buried in his heart. The others listened in on the hardships, and lowered their heads as they glanced at Zhuo Fan. The stage was drowned in shouts and roars of the crowd, with only this small corner at peace. The pain and sorrow overwhelmed everyone for a long time. Chu Qingqing had flinched now and then at Shui Ruohua's retelling, slowly leaning on Zhuo Fan's shoulder. Zhuo Fan could no longer stop the tears, falling down in waves. In all these years as her husband, only now could he lend his shoulder to his weary wife. He felt pain like no other in all his lives. The crowd was too busy hollering and shouting to pay any attention to their pain, their eyes bloodshot while watching the stage with fervent joy and thirst for a good fight. Crack. Yi Lin's knuckles crackled as he stared hard at Ouyang Changqing. You almost had me for a second there, when you bastards said you didn't want Sister Qingqing to disturb you. But now I see you went to such lengths to set the stage all to show off to a woman. Humph, you're a real piece of work. You'd rather show off to some cheap broad than save a life. I vow on my name as a sacred beast inheritor, that I'll put you in your place here and now. Hey, who the hell are you calling cheap? For insulting the woman of my dreams, I will make you pay. Ouyang Changqing cursed back. He exploded with power in a blue glow cold and thick, giving off a choking feeling under its pressure. The barrier around the stage was unable to contain it, sending the terrifying aura into the crowd. The power of the heaven-sealing sword Ouyang Changqing had been training in for many years now. Oh! The disciples clapped and jumped. That's our senior brother Changqing. He has the power to be the best of the best. Yi Lin didn't look remotely impressed. Shaking a bit, and unleashing a draconic roar from within his flame sword. The golden flame swallowed his body, releasing a searing heat felt by even those outside the stage. It was so bad that the tiles began to buckle and warp under the strain. As for the stage, it split in two, half belonging to Ouyang Changqing's icy heaven-sealing domain, while the other half was Yi Lin's and his blistering decimating golden flame. The two had unleashed their powers and were at an impasse. The audience gasped, too overwhelmed with amazement to keep shouting Ouyang Changqing's name. They came here thinking it would be a short fight like all till now, with Ouyang Changqing reigning supreme like always. Now however they were met with a standstill, at least from Aura's standpoint. Silence dominated for once, with faint whispers being heard now and then. None expected a peer of theirs would finally rise that could stand up to Ouyang Changqing's power. This was bound to be an awesome fight. The oldies spectating were taken aback as well, smiling and nodding. The best disciple in Western lands lives up to his name, The fight is going to last a while, ha ha ha. Shangguan Qingyan pulled at Morong Shui in all her excitement. Sister Shui, it's nothing like you said. Ouyang Chongqing might not win this one. Oh, it does seem like it. Morong Shui was stunned as well. I would never guess the dry western lands of talent would give birth to such an outstanding man. Shangguan Qingyan looked smug. What do you think of my Zhua fan then? He's from western lands too. However, Morong Shui smirked. Their display only proved their training is the same, but not who wins. It will solely rest on the skills, cultivation method and attacks. Ouyang Chongqing is the son of the strongest in northern lands, Ouyang Lingtian. Such things are nothing for him, but as for that western lands kid, Shangguan Qingyan grinned. We'll just have to wait and see. Morong Shui looked interested for a change, her eyes no longer flat, but having a spark of curiosity. Face twitching, Ouyang Chongqing looked at his opponent having matched him in aura and frowned. He glanced at Morong Shui then at Yilin, and clenched his fists. I've underestimated you, boy. You're nothing like everyone I fought so far. Curses! This fight may not be the show I wanted, but since Sister Shui is watching, I'm not going to let it disappoint. Speed is of the essence. I'm going to finish him off before he gets any chance to fight back and drag things on. It will only make me look like a fool. I had ignored my adversaries so far, but not this one. The crux is Sister Shui is watching, and I cannot let it show I'm sweating even a drop. Ouyang Chongqing gnashed his teeth and shot for Yilin. Yilin laughed and met him halfway. You got the wrong guy if you think you can match me in a brawl. Bam! A shocking explosion echoed as the punch and kick collided. The powerful shockwave was so strong it even made the barrier tremble. The two jumped back to their place. But while Yilin stretched out his golden scale arm with a sinister smirk, Ouyang Chongqing's leg was jerking, clearly in pain from holding it up. God damn it! Why's the punk's body so damn hard? Not even my heaven-sealing sword art strengthened body can match. Is he a monster? Ouyang Chongqing gnashed his teeth and glanced at the stunned crowd. Senior brother actually came out at a disadvantage in the first exchange. Even the oldies were amazed. The Western Lands kid is great. I had never seen Chongqing so distressed. For Western Lands to have such an amazing talent, it must be once in millennias. Another elder nodded. Western Lands is filled with talent that don't just stop with him. A sudden speaker said. The others flinched and gasped. Exalted He ran. What are you doing here? Aren't you helping the Shangguan clan unseal the soaring sword? Why? That seal is not only strong but queer as well. We've been giving our very best for 3 days and 3 nights, now yet still couldn't lift it. I came out for a breath of fresh air, letting old Bai have a go. Exalted He ran gave a casual wave. The others bowed. Exalted He ran is working hard. But what does Sir mean by that? You're saying Western Lands has more disciples like him? No way. That and then some. Then why is he the best? Because the strongest has died years ago. If he was alive, I dare say he'd become the second invincible sword. It would have given us hope of fighting the central area's ambition, but He ran grew sullen as he sighed. The others were startled at the revelation, but also skeptical. Is the old guy for real, or mere bragging? Since when did Western Lands become a trove of talents? For even their second choice for best could push Northern Lands' best disciple. What does that say about the Western Lands' best? Chapter 1021, Evoking Heaven Art. Chapter 1021, Evoking Heaven Art. Proofreader Papatonks. Yenemo, you were right. Ouyang Chongqing really can fight junior brother. Maybe not to the level of Zhua Fan's fight with junior brother, but it should come close with how they are. Outside the arena, Wu Qingqiu commented on the fight, telling Yenemo, "You've done well." Yenemo dismissed his praise. "It's nothing. I went first with Ouyang Chongqing to test his strength. I lasted 20 rounds with him, while only holding for 18 with Yilin. The best disciple in Northern Lands is a show-off, but does live up to his name at least. I just hope the fight could stir Chu Qingqing's mind, the least we can do for Zhua Fan's spirit. Yeah, this fight is our hope to bring Zhua Fan's spirit peace. If even this won't work, then nothing will." Wu Qingqiu sighed, glancing at Chu Qingsheng, and seeing her peaceful face leaning on Zhuofan's shoulder. Her tranquility caught him off guard, especially since there was a huge fight going on, and she had no sign of being afraid. He signaled Yin Mo and said, "Hey Yin Mo, who is that guy? Junior sister Qingqing has been at peace ever since they met. It's baffling." Yin Mo frowned and shook his head. "I have no idea. He's wearing a mask so I can't tell. Though I don't think it would make a difference even if he hadn't. From Ouyang Changqing's introduction, he's a merchant from northern lands. We've hardly ever left western lands, so we'd definitely not recognize him. Why do I get a familiar feeling about him then?" Wu Qingqiu's senses threw him into a state of confusion, but he put it all aside and focused on the fight. Ouyang Changqing looked around after his first loss and saw Morong Shui's eager eyes. His delusion made him believe she was rooting for him with that hopeful gaze. So he gnashed his teeth and weaved signs. With every sign, thunder boomed and rumbled as a sudden heavy air overtook the area. Soon the people found it hard to even breathe. As the warmth was sapped away, ice began to form and spread. The oldies cried out at his actions. Evoking heaven art? Does he plan to finish it by showing his card so soon? Evoking heaven art. Exalted Hei Ran started as well. See Bright Sect's main earth-ranked martial art. That evoking heaven art? The skill is said to have come from understanding the heaven-sealing sword. One old man nodded gravely. Yeah, the heaven-sealing sword contains the power of seals. By learning its art one gains knowledge about the sealing way and breaking way. The evoking heaven art came from the heaven-sealing sword's breaking way. Exalted Hei Ran. Cultivators need to reach Genesis stage to draw upon the world's power and grow their sword's power to unseen levels. But the evoking heaven art breaks the chains of the world and uses its power before one reaches Genesis stage, while unleashing the same type of might as a Genesis stage expert. It's an outrageous art, and the more worldly power is drawn, the bigger the impact. In other words, Ouyang Changqing has become, for a brief moment, a Genesis stage expert. Exalted Hei Ran gasped as he looked intently at the fight. Since they're even, won't that mean Ouyang Changqing has gained the upper hand with this boost in cultivation stage? Soul Harmony cultivators are seen as weak to any Genesis stage expert. Yi Lin is no normal Soul Harmony expert, but neither is Ouyang Changqing in his now temporary Genesis stage. He is an inheritor of the heaven-sealing sword art. Yi Lin's hopes are slim at best. The elder shook his head with a sigh. Exalted Hei Ran has to look closer. The evoking heaven art is no secret art, but it has its fair share of dangers. One needs to exercise restraint when it comes to worldly power. Not even a fresh Genesis stage cultivator has much control over the worldly power, let alone in the Soul Harmony stage. If he goes beyond his limits, the power will go berserk, and it will take it out on him. At worst, he'll be ripped to shreds at heaven's mercy. Ouyang Changqing is the best disciple in northern lands. He has at least that self-control, right? I fear his reckless youth will get the best of him. You can tell by how the fight developed. I fear he will not only hurt his opponent, but himself as well, just for the sake of winning. The old man sighed. I can only hope that his opponent will fall quickly, so he can reign in the worldly power before it causes harm. Exalted Hei Ran smirked. That's going to be hard. Yi Lin is quite unyielding. When he fought the best disciple in Western lands, he almost bet his life. He's only standing there because I stepped in. Ugh! They shared bitter smiles and shook their heads. Why did it have to be these two pig-headed fools that have to fight? The fight was worrying the elders, but the audience was oblivious to the danger, exploding the minute Ouyang Changqing unleashed his great move. Ouyang Changqing saw the cheers aimed at him, and the girl of his dreams watching him, and smiled. His signs formed faster. The more signs he formed, the harder the pressure of the world bore down, with a bone-chilling coldness spreading. Icy sword waves formed in the sky as they flew around, spreading shock and fear. Yi Lin no longer had a smug look, but became serious, his fists clenching. Rumble! With Ouyang Changqing's final sign, lightning split the skies, unleashing a deafening thunder. One black cloud exploded into myriads of icy swords, gathering around Ouyang Chongqing, and numbering in the tens of thousands. Bang! Some scraped the barrier of the stage, and punched holes in it like it wasn't even there. The safeguard was now gone. The audience was too incensed to care, shouting harder than ever and chanting his name. With the fall of the barrier, everyone, even the crowd, was now part of the fight. And being part of such a fight only meant one thing for them: death. While they were blissfully oblivious to the incoming doom, the oldies picked up on the crisis. Blast it! Now if anything happens, it will only become worse. Humph, that kid just had to pick Beneath Heaven Island's stage for his fight. Doesn't he know the stage is meant for average disciple spars? Its barrier isn't strong either. It's because most people are on Beneath Heaven Island. Ouyang Lingtian's son is like the rumors paint him vain. Exalted He Ran smiled. Well, aren't you going to stop him? The oldies paused. Exalted He Ran, why don't you try? TCH hell no. Exalted He Ran rolled his eyes. It's your home, so how could I step in? Until my disciples are in peril, I won't budge an inch. Any sooner, and it will be taken as Western Land's defeat. While a mere children's quarrel, we all have our dignity, all right? The oldies shook their heads. We can't step in either. Chongqing is pig-headed, but has great talent. He's going to take his father's place and wield Heaven's sealing sword. That is certain. And you want us to barge in into his most prideful moment in his fun? TCH, a bunch of bootlickers. It goes to show how it got to his head and beyond. You always indulged him. Exalted He Ran clicked his tongue and he watched. The oldies had no comeback, silently accepting his jab. None would step in until it was too late. Like whether the kid was suicidal or not had nothing to do with them. Below, sword energies roamed around with the world's energy filling the air at Ouyang Chongqing's whim. He grew excited because none had brought him this far, making him feel the amazing power for the first time. Having the world in the palm of his hand was intoxicating. Ouyang Chongqing shouted and pointed at the skies. The thousands of sword energies combined and formed into a sword image, with a cold edge 300 meters tall. Its unstoppable aura shimmering the air around it. Wu Qingqiu cried out. This is the power of the world Ouyang Chongqing is able to use, but why? Curses! How is that little junior brother able to take such a boosted move? This is not as simple as a mere boost, but a gap in stages. Hardly anything can bridge the gap between Soul Harmony stage and Genesis stage. Yan Mo gnashed his teeth. The two were equal, but now, with this incredible secret skill, Yi Lin will have a hard time overcoming it, even with all he has. Wu Qingqiu sighed, glancing at Chu Qingcheng. I hope to give her an even fight, but Ouyang Chongqing went all out too quickly, becoming overwhelming in power. It took all the thrill out of it. The other sighed a nod. Only Yi Lin looked at Zhuofan below, his eyes thirsting for battle. After turning to his opponent, golden flames burst from his eyes, as if to prove his resolve. Elder brother, watch closely. I have lost to you before, but after these years, I'm just as good as you. Chapter 1022, Shocking Move. Chapter 1022, Shocking Move. Proofreader Papatonks. Ha ha ha, can you feel the extent of my power? Give up while you still can. We're allies and would hate to leave you hurting and break our land's relations. Have some common sense, and I will make sure to follow in my footsteps of grandeur. With the heaven's sword in my hands, the world's my oyster. Ouyang Chongqing raised his hand and lifted the terrible and sharp illusory sword, feeding his ego as he spoke with conceit. As for the audience, they only grew more excited with his confidence. Only Morong Shui gave Shengguan Qingyan a bitter look. He has the power, but nothing beats his narcissism. The more I think about it, the more I fear for the future of the northern lands with him in the lead. Yi Lin gave him a cold look, not at all impressed by the humongous flashy sword above his head. He actually had the nerve to taunt. Don't get ahead of yourself. It's too soon to tell, don't you think, Brother Ouyang? You really think you have it in you to take on this sword? I'm going to crush it. With golden flames shining in his eyes, Yi Lin shouted, his body exploding with power. This is a secret art I could only use once in the soul harmony stage. I planned on using it on elder brother when we sparred again, but since we met first, I'll let you have a taste. Decimating Inferno Fire Dragon Form. Yi Lin roared at the heavens, followed by draconic howls, shaking the air with every rumble. Scorching and golden lights shot from his body like a volcanic eruption, illuminating the whole sky. A dreaded heatwave spread, enveloping half the world in a red hue, and the audience in a hot spell. As for Yi Lin, under the shocked eyes of the crowd began to change. Golden scales formed on his body, and his teeth turned into sharp fangs. He was now like a wild beast, and from the shape of his head, it was that of a dragon. Everyone gasped at the sudden transformation. Is his soul the greatest heaven dragon soul? How else could he take this form in soul harmony stage? His power and yuan qi amount had to be multiplied. There are now some good chance he might actually take on the sword. Ouyang Chongqing huffed. So what if you have the heaven dragon soul? My sword is from the heaven sealing sword art. Even if you harmonized with the heaven dragon soul, it won't do a damn thing. Humph. Do you really think this is your average soul harmony? Ignorant whelp, just watch. I told you, this is fire dragon form, not your average fake draconic soul harmony. Yi Lin smirked and shouted again. Boom! Akin to a detonation, the violent golden flames shot from his body in every direction. The great power made the audience squint, feeling on their skin the searing heat he released. Ouyang Chongqing gasped, his mind going a mile a minute as he reproached. Brothers, this is but a fight for the best in the alliance, not to the death. Could you not detonate, please? The oldies were just as stunned, gaping at the display. Not even exalted He Ran acted with more composure. Why's Yi Lin so panicked to detonate? He's not even cornered yet. Standing there for any longer would let the inferno reach the crowd, and would be sure to leave countless casualties. The elders were ready to stop this from happening. Ouyang Chongqing grew serious as well, about to slash with his sword and stop the incoming golden flames. And yet, the spreading golden inferno paused and pulled back in on the stage, forming a huge fire tornado, punching a hole in the skies. When the tornado settled, a deafening draconic cry racked the audience's ears. The elders, Ouyang Chongqing, even exalted He Ran watched with dumb look at the incredulous scene unfolding. Yi Lin had been hiding such a move even in the years spent inside Double Dragon Manor. Yi Lin was nowhere to be seen on stage, replaced with a 300-meter-tall golden and flaming dragon soaring high above. Where it passed, the air shimmered, as if the skies feared the divine dragon's roars. Only a divine beast could have the might to challenge heavens, never content with just holding the world's power. Yi Lin was now a fire dragon, his power being on the level of heaven itself. Why then should he care if the opponent used worldly power? Ouyang Chongqing's brow shook, still holding the sword, but his gaze was lost. Screw you. That's no soul harmony dragon, but the real thing. Talk, where the hell did Western lands get such a monster, you damn abomination? Wu Qingqiu and the rest from Western lands were floored. They knew Yi Lin was badass, but only now knew he held a skill that could rival heavens. Ouyang Chongqing had now met his match as a fight like no other was about to unfold. The fight sure was intense, on the level of Zhuo Fan and Yi Lin's back in Western lands. Wu Qingqiu and Yan Mo shared a smile, then looked at Chu Qingcheng. Shangguan Qingyan was dazzled, looking astonished. Sister Shui, it's totally worth it. Yeah. It's beyond my imagination the best disciple in Western lands to be of such amazing talent, to fight the son of Ouyang Lingtian. He is on the level of the best 4 princes of the Bailey clan. As for the strongest Bailey Jingtian, Morong Shui sighed. I don't know for sure since we never fought, but these two give us hope. Bam! Yi Lin's huge bulk landed on stage, the large vertical eyes staring at Ouyang Chongqing, while sometimes glancing at Zhuo Fan. See that, bro? This is my power, just like yours. His mood got killed the minute he saw Zhuo Fan never even looking at him. Zhuo Fan's eyes were only on Chu Qingcheng's peaceful features, as he listened to Shui Ruohua tell him of Chu Qingcheng's troubles. Shaking his huge dragon head, Yi Lin sighed with disappointment, focusing on his adversary instead. He opened his maw to reveal the human-sized fangs as he laughed. Boy, you dare talk big with me? You're only asking me to tear into you. Bam! The dragon claw slammed on stage, crumbling it to pieces. The powerful shockwave howling as it spread to the audience, and burning his majestic visage in their trembling hearts. It was like they were seeing a real dragon in all its glory, robbing them of their breaths. All the resounding support Ouyang Changqing had been getting from his fellow disciples was now quashed under the oppressive power of the dragon before them. They couldn't muster the slightest peep, feeling utterly inferior. Yi Lin was a true dragon, a king in his own right before the masses. For the first time ever, the stage had sunk in complete silence. No one held more authority than the fire dragon's royal aura. Ouyang Changqing started to sweat as he watched the huge dragon, but his heart burned with anger. He didn't know what abomination Yi Lin was, with how the average soul harmony stage cultivator merely took on the appearance of the soul beast, bumping up their power a bit. But this guy in front of him became a true dragon. No matter how he looked at it, that was not a human standing before him, but a dragon made of fire. He didn't care how or why it happened, only feeling that his grand performance had been squashed. All eyes were now on Yi Lin's magnificent and royal form, as he became a prop. It was a blow his ego was incapable of taking. He had fought so many times, but when did he ever become the extra? This time there were so many people watching, all thanks to his efforts too, and to show off in front of the girl of his dreams. But all that popularity had gone away in a flash. Would a man of his endless pride allow for another to steal his limelight? He had to win this at all costs, or it would haunt him for the rest of his days. Ouyang Changqing gnashed his teeth, and resolve glowed in his eyes. The sword above him grew more savage. I don't care if you're a fake or not. I'll slaughter you where you stand. Ouyang Changqing waved and brought down the greatsword on Yi Lin's huge dragon bulk. Chapter 1023, Berserk. Chapter 1023 Berserk. Proofreader, Papatonks. Who? The large sword carried the power of the world, as it came down on the dragon head. Its chilling aura swept the stage, cooling the heart coming from Yi Lin. The dragon's surging fires dimmed and flickered as well. Yi Lin's brow shook, still having the calm of mind to know that the heaven-sealing sword art held the power to contest the dragons. So he willed the flames to reach 10 meters once more as he used his big claws to grasp the large sword. Bam! The claws screeched as they made contact, with hot and cold fighting for supremacy. Ouyang Changqing strained with a red face to bring that large sword down while Yi Lin forced himself with a soaked brow to keep the flames burning against the icy blade, even as they slowly got put out. They both used all they had, but they were now at a standstill. The prolonged tension brought unease to the crowd, looking on nervously and eager to know the final winner, the best disciple in the alliance. You think you can best me with just your power? In your dreams. Evoking heaven art. Pushing hard for 15 minutes, yet the claws held the sword at bay still. Ouyang Changqing had lost his patience. Yi Lin's true dragon form was too strong, able to counter the power of the world with only his strength. Thinking about it, he realized the Yuan Qi reserves Yi Lin had were gigantic as well. Thus letting it drag out would be to his detriment. He might have borrowed the world to bump his power. The Yuan Qi he used to gain control over it was too taxing to keep running for long. Speed was of the essence. Today was also the first time he used evoking heaven art, and controlled so much worldly power. And if he tried to take some more? Ouyang Changqing hesitated, but then he saw Yi Lin's conviction. He just gnashed his teeth and shouted as he made the signs. Another rumble spread through the skies as sword energy gathered in his hand, and flowing into the large sword. The sword's coldness flared with power, pushing back harder against Yi Lin's draconic body, snapping the stage in half from the force. Ouyang Changqing grew pleased at the results. Let's see you last now. The oldies of the Sea Bright sect were getting tense by the moment, evoking heaven art again. It should be fine. Let's hope so. They shook their heads in worry. The audience cheered at their senior brother's comeback, though drowned soon after by another draconic roar. As he pushed at the incoming sword, He also lashed out with the searing and flaming tail. Bam! The large sword shook as it dimmed. Ouyang Chongqing shook with it, pushed back a bit. But it was his heart that couldn't take the reality. Yilin smirked and wheezed, while still having the energy to mock. Brat, let's see how far worldly energy can take you. Humph, isn't it something you drew with your yuan qi? The minute the sword shakes the slightest bit, your yuan qi is affected. How will you draw worldly power in that state? One tiny shift and everything will come down crashing. Your evoking heaven art isn't anything to look at. Yilin flared his fire and pushed at the large sword. Bam! Ouyang Chongqing's face twisted as he paled. Damn punk, I'll get you for this. With his opponent figuring out his weakness, Ouyang Chongqing ignored everything and made signs again. I'll show you the true power of the heaven-sealing sword art. Heaven-sealing art. The large sword exploded into many cold blades and shot for Yilin's bulk, invisible and unnoticed. Yilin surged in the sky because of the loss of resistance, but then the sword waves battered his body, snuffing out the flames and even forming ice. Yilin cried out, "What is this thing? I can't move." Ha ha ha, see that? This is the true power of the heaven-sealing sword art, sealing. Ouyang Chongqing laughed in pride. Once caught, strength won't matter, for you can't move a muscle. You lost Western Lands, brat. Yilin's face twisted in defiance. The elders above gasped. Evoking heaven art uses the breaking way, while heaven-sealing art the sealing way. Who told him to use both of them at the same time? He's only making it worse. What's the problem? Exalted He Ran felt bad for seeing his disciple lose, but then he heard them and asked, "You're saying this is more dangerous than evoking heaven art?" The elders nodded. Yeah, overusing evoking heaven art only gets the power to run berserk, and could step in to get control over it. But with how these skills engender each other, the loss of control will mean a rampant surge of worldly power no one can grasp unless the seal is released. This happened only once, 2,000 years ago, with the wielder using the heaven-sealing sword to cut off the power of the world from unleashing a disaster. But even then there were countless casualties, and thus was forbidden. I did not expect Chongqing to use it today to win a match. Is it because it happened so long ago? Kids these days have no idea of the horrors of the past. Then are you going to do something about it? Or just watch? Of course we'll stop it no matter what. The elders went down. But then the dragon roared, and as the ice was about to swallow Yilin, the golden flames flickered to life once more, breaking it down. But there was also blood flowing from his mouth. Ouyang Chongqing sneered. Using your blood essence to stir your potential? Humph, it's no use. The worldly power at my disposal is boundless. How long can you last? Evoking heaven art. Ouyang Chongqing made signs once more. Don't do it. One elder shouted in panic. Ouyang Chongqing was too far gone now, obsessed with winning, with proving himself best. Worldly power gathered once more, bearing down in the form of another sword. Ouyang Chongqing shifted his signs. Heaven-sealing sword art. The elders' faces twitched, unable to stop him in time. The sword energies coming from the heavens had yet to fully form, and turned into cold energy the next second, gunning for Yilin. It formed another cage in an instant. Yilin's heart jumped in shock, fighting to keep his golden flames burning and fight off the cold. It was no use, for the two arts had now set free the world's energy. Out of Ouyang Chongqing's control, the world formed a sword by itself, then transformed into cold blades that struck Yilin. Ouyang Chongqing laughed in glee. Ha ha ha. You can actually use both arts at the same time for an even greater effect to unleash all the endless power of the world. My win is set. How come I couldn't see this before? You saw shit. That's losing control of the worldly power and bringing about destruction. One elder flashed before him and shouted at the others. Send for Lingtian at once. Tell him to come with the heaven-sealing sword and break the link. Ouyang Chongqing looked baffled. Elder, what's wrong? Aren't I the first who used the two arts together? You think yourself so clever, is that it? The elder's face twitched, looking distraught and fearful at the sword coming from the sky. Yilin roared once more. trapped in ice again. But this time the ice was bizarre, working to swallow his bulk until he turned into a dragon statue of ice. His eyes then flared with savagery behind the ice. Chapter 1024, Ouyang Lingtian. Chapter 1024, Ouyang Lingtian. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh. Sword energies flew around the sky, slamming into the ice dragon and adding to the seal. The ice dragon howled at the sky with such power it crushed the stage, then blew his breath on the audience, one of ice and cold. The chilling breath swept the unfortunate ones and turned them into statues of ice in mid-panic. So deep was the cold that it froze their very souls. We're finished. The heaven and earth has gone berserk. One elder held his head and sighed bitterly. Ouyang Chongqing was enraged when Yi Lin attacked his fans. Hey, Western Lands punk, have you lost your mind? You're the demented one, Chongqing. The elder shook his head and snapped at him. Have you any idea what calamity you caused? Evoking heaven art and heaven sealing art engender each other. Evoking heaven art breaks, opening a channel into the world so you can draw its power, while heaven sealing art seals this channel and the power. When a cultivator uses the worldly power, it would dissipate afterward and return to its rightful place, back to the world. This is its nature. But you opened a channel into the world, then had it sealed in place. The minute you lost all control over that power, it started spilling into reality, without stopping thanks to locking the channel, while also running amok with no one to direct it. And this is the result. Ouyang Chongqing's eyes went wide, scratching his head classlessly. Elder, so you're saying the dragon isn't that guy but a mass worldly power? Why is it attacking people then? Isn't it just energy? The world has spiritual energy, so it must have its own will. The elder shook his head. Once a cultivator draws upon the worldly power, they can control it. But now this power has gone berserk, gathering in one place, and also gaining sentience from the will of the world. With heaven and earth going crazy, you have no idea what kind of a disaster it can cause. It's beyond anything humanly possible. Ouyang Chongqing looked at the far ice dragon with a deep frown. What about the Western Lands punk? You're saying the power focused on him, and it's controlling him? What about his mind, has it been swallowed? You have the nerve to ask. The elder's face twitched and shook his head. Have you no clue what you just did? You used heaven-sealing sword art, and he's been frickin' sealed. Now the power of the world is going into the dragon without a conscience, the best thing for it. If the mind was still there, some control would have been possible. This time is going to be even harder to deal with than 2,000 years ago. Your father is going to tan your hide. Ouyang Chongqing's lip quivered, like he was a naughty child caught red-handed and looking guilty. The roars echoed across the skies as the ice dragon flung its bulk around, and spraying ice to freeze everything. The only expressive thing about these lifelike statues were the fearful eyes and the shocked faces. Wu Qingqiu cried out. Little junior brother, what happened to you? Stop. Who? The ice dragon blew ice once more. Wu Qingqiu knew he was going to fall under such power, and rushed to dodge. His leg ended up being caught in the blast, freezing over. Sir, what just happened? Go and take Qingqing away. The peaceful storytelling had now come to an abrupt end, as a monster rampaged around turning people into popsicles. Shui Ruohua gasped, and reached for Chu Qingqing to take her away from this dangerous place. Zhuo Fan regarded the peaceful face of his wife and smiled. It's fine. There's no need to disturb her. You haven't finished the story, Miss Shui, please continue. As if, with so much chaos around the world might be ending, and you're asking me to tell you a bedtime story? Even if I might be suicidal, I will never let any harm come to Qingqing. What kind of a sister you take me for? On stage, exalted He Ran shot a sword energy at the ice dragon, and break the ice on it, and reach his dear disciple. But the dragon shook, and all the ice splashing about was soon absorbed into its body, along with the power of the strike. Exalted He Ran gasped in fright. What in the world is that thing? Exalted, please refrain from doing anything. Nothing we do will have any effect. One elder with a white beard came over as he explained hastily. That is the embodiment of the heaven-sealing sword art. No matter what skill is used, it will only be absorbed by the seal and become its own power. That's why nothing we do to it will help. We can only protect the other disciples and flee from here. Exalted Hei Ran was astonished. Then he glanced at the panicking disciples fleeing for their lives, still ending up in ice from the dragon's breath, and said, "If you say this thing's unstoppable, how then do we deal with it? We can't let it run amok and freeze the whole sect." Exalted, it can seal everything but the 5 great divine swords. The man cupped his hands and pointed at the ice swords raining down from above even now. Please observe. The channel into the world has been opened, turning into an infinite loop. Our only hope is to dodge and wait for Brother Lingtian to come with the heaven-sealing sword and seal the channel, then cut it to disperse all that power. He will also go easy as to save your disciple as well. Exalted Hei Ran's brow shook, looking at the ice dragon freezing anything that moved with a sigh. He relinquished a nod. This thing was now part of the world, undying and unstoppable. The more power they used on it, the more it absorbed. The only option right now was to wait for Ouyang Lingtian to come to the rescue and fix this damn mess his own son made. Ouyang Changqing looked at the ice dragon ruining everything, out of his control, and felt so bad he could cry. I can't tell if Dad will come to strike me down or the dragon first. Sniff. Ouyang Changqing, this is all your fault. You did this, you caused this disaster to fall on so many lives. 2 girls flashed out of nowhere. Shangguan Qingyan glared at him and started cursing. Morong Shui was furious as well, full of hatred. Morong Shui's hatred, however, was due to having involved innocence. Shangguan Qingyan's rage was because she worried for Zhuo Fan, so she was taking it out on him. She was running her mouth while looking around for Zhuo Fan. With everyone in panic, it was hard to look. Ouyang Changqing lowered his head in guilt under the chastising look of the girl of his dreams. He was even more accepting of his guilt than when faced with his father. There. Shangguan Qingyan spotted Zhuo Fan, still sitting without a worry and listening to everything. Talk about monstrous. Not even having a healthy respect for the worldly abomination running amok just next to him. Maybe it felt the contempt. Or maybe all the targets fled and left only Zhuo Fan's group still untouched. But the ice dragon roared and set its eyes on them. It shot for them, its icy aura freezing the area around it as it passed. Watch out! Shangguan Qingyan cried out in fright, a little too late. The others around her looked down just in time to see another poor souls being sacrificed to the calamity. Leave this to me. A resounding voice spoke. Hum. The cold humming of a sword was heard as a figure in gray rushed over at full speed. Dad! Ouyang Changqing cried out, thrilled and scared, while the others looked on in hope. Northern Land's best, Ouyang Lingtian, finally arrived with heaven-sealing sword to clean up his son's mess. Chapter 1025, Thunderflame Wraith Claw. Chapter 1025, Thunderflame Wraith Claw. Proofreader, Papatonks. Heaven-sealing sword art, heaven-breaking strike. A dignified man with a gray robe fluttering in the wind appeared. He had sharp eyes and sharp features. He wielded an azure longsword, giving a dazzling light. Its sharp edge promised to cut everything in creation, even the world, humming all along. The sharp sword energy rushed out of the tip and went for the ice dragon, moving with incredible speed through the air. The others watched in awe as the best in northern lands made his move. As he was in mid-strike, someone shouted at him, Brother Lingtian, please go easy. The ice dragon has my disciple sealed. Please spare his life. There's actually someone in there. Isn't it like the disaster 2,000 years ago? Ouyang Lingtian's eyes shook from the news, and he halted the attack. He looked back to see Western Land's exalted Hei Ran speaking up. Ouyang Lingtian went back to the raging ice dragon about to run into Zhuo Fan. He was hesitating, not knowing where the sealed disciple was under all that ice, and one wrong move would cleave him. By hurting exalted Double Dragon's precious disciple would mean ruining their cooperation, while delaying would also implicate the people it targeted, under the ice's torment from the dragon. The sudden conundrum had the best in northern lands stuck. Save one and let many die to keep the land's friends still? Or accept the loss of a single life for the good of many? Ouyang Lingtian found it a very tough choice to make. Which was worth it? The alliance or the lives below? It was a headache, even for the most righteous characters. But he had omitted one last choice, inaction, leaving the ice dragon to rampage for Zhuofan's group. Now no one could save them. His attack would be too late for the sword energy to reach them in time. The ice dragon would have crushed them to pieces by the time he struck. To others, it looked like Ouyang Lingtian had made no choice when he actually did. Yi Lin was brought at their invitation by Exalted He Ran with the promise of safety. With Western Land's crucial situation, his safety was just as vital, far more so than a few random lives. The righteous path stated that all lives were equal. But when people were involved, that value tended to change to suit their needs. Ouyang Lingtian held the sword tight and sighed. Down below it was life and death, yet the matters of the world had won over his principles. He wanted to save everyone, but he stayed his hand. Not for the life inside the ice dragon, but the ties among the two lands. No matter how huge the collateral, the essential personnel had to be kept alive, lest it would cause tension between factions. Such was the secular world. The five lands' best experts could be all noble as much as they wanted, but it still didn't change the fact they were tied in the vicious interests of the world around them. Shengguan Qingyan had hoped for Ouyang Lingtian's appearance, so that Zhuofan would be saved. But the best in northern lands' rescuing strike failed to deliver. It astonished her to no end. Why aren't you doing anything? Yeah, Dad would always help people in need. Why is today any different? Is he afraid of harming innocents from how far we are? Ouyang Chongqing cried out. Murong Shue's brow shook and sighed. It's not a stray attack he fears, but his already stray heart. The ice dragon roared once more, carrying unstoppable power straight at Zhuofan, surrounding them in a harsh cold mist. The slightest touch would mean being frozen on the spot. Now there was no escape. Junior sister Qingcheng, junior sister Shui. Wu Qingqiu cried out, with the others around him nervous for their fate. Shengguan Qingyan cried out in panic. Look out, Shui dash. There was no stopping the ice dragon's charge. It raised its claw and went for their lives, to crush them to an icy pulp. Shui Ruohua and the other girls stood rooted in place. They glanced at the unfazed Zhuofan, still sitting in his spot, with reproachful gazes. I told you we should run, but you just had to play it cool. Now look what happened, there's nowhere to go now. If you find death so nice, why the hell did you have to drag us with you as well? Look at Qingcheng, she's still lost in her own mind. The poor girl is about to fade away all due to some damn stranger. Well, aren't you all pissed your boss is so stubborn, he just had to have you all die as well? Shui Ruohua turned to the guards then, only to find them just as cool. Shui Ruohua was stumped. Are they all suicidal? You don't mind dying with such a master? Having been around Zhuofan for this long journey, they figured out early on how he operated. From inciting frigid rain sword king, to facing invincible sword, whenever he showed complete calm, then it was proof enough that all would be fine. Zhuofan held Chu Qingqing's hand, her head leaning on his shoulder, in utter tranquility, even more so than usual. So why would they rack their nerves? They had complete trust in Zhuofan's control, worshipping his flawless skills. It could have come from a horde of dragons for all they cared. So long Zhuofan was chill, so were they. Ooh, the ice winds blew, surrounding the area in its great power. Even the seats chilled over and froze their rears. It was then the two claws were right on top of them. Shui Ruohua's eyes rolled back, about to faint from terror. The onlookers, Wu Qingqiu, Yan Mo, Murong Shui and the others were filled with worry but equally helpless. Ouyang Lingtian sighed, closing his eyes, unable to bear seeing the result of his choice. They might be collateral, but lives nonetheless that he brought doom upon. He felt he had lost all dignity. Exalted He Ran looked at the three girls below with a shake of his head and guilt. To save Yi Lin and the Western Land's future, he had given up on the expendables. It was certain to all here that Zhuofan's group was finished, sighing at the loss. But the deadly ice claws halted for no reason just above them. To everyone's shock, they watched as a black claw formed between Zhuofan and the ice dragon, blocking the ice claws from coming any closer. What is this? Why isn't he sealed in contact with the ice dragon? One elder shouted in disbelief. The ice dragon seals everything, arts, souls, and even yuan qi in its body. How is it that someone is still unaffected when touching it? Ouyang Lingtian watched the spectacle with equal shock, forgetting to even mind his flying. Heaven-sealing sword art can no longer seal. That's not possible. Shui Ruohua was waiting for her life to end at the ice dragon's claw, but found it to be late. She cracked an eyelid open, and saw the black claw keeping it back with a dumb look. Wasn't this dragon unstoppable? Exalted He Ran couldn't stop it earlier, so why can this man? Sir. Shui Ruohua turned to Zhuofan in shock. Zhuofan only had eyes for Chu Qingqing, who still leaned on his shoulder with a smile. Then he glanced at the halted ice claws with a hard expression. You ruined the mood, bastard. Thunderflame Wraith Claw. His left eye acted up, and the black thunderflame exploded. It spread over the black claw, and enlarged it many times into a huge thunderflame claw. The crackling fire filled the air with death. It was a power and aura that struck fear to the core of the disciples, and the mighty experts above, including Exalted He Ran and Ouyang Lingtian. As for the ice dragon, it actually showed fear under the black thunderflame's power. Its huge icy bulk quaked from it. Chapter 1026, The Best. Chapter 1026, The Best. Proofreader Papatonks. Boom! The dreadful black thunder claw squeezed, and the ice dragon's claws exploded to pieces. The thunderflame made sure to burn them to nothing before they got back to its body. The ice dragon shook from fear, looking terrified. The guy was simply standing at the side, without a care, till now, and gave off no indication it wielded such godly power, incapable of even being sealed. It flicked its tail, and the scared dragon withdrew as he absorbed the cold icy sword waves from the sky, and repaired the damage. Its claws were soon good as new. Zhuofan was not about to let it go. Since he had to get involved, he would finish it too. Zhuofan's eyes shone, and the huge thunderflame claw shot forth to clutch the ice dragon's head, bursting it with a squeeze. The ice was blown away, even if formed from the worldly power, ended up burned to nothing from the thunderflame. The thunderflame claw grabbed further, at the body, and took seconds to turn the 300-meter large ice dragon to pieces that had no chance of returning, sizzling and gone from this world. The thunder claw grasped one last time, and drew a person next to Zhuofan. Because of the seal placed on him, Yilin's mind was hazy, his body wobbling around. Yet he managed to catch some glimpses through the haze. Thank you, elder brother. After all these years I still can't catch up to you. It's fine, just be more careful next time. Releasing the claw, Zhuofan looked calm as before, still sitting with Chu Qingqing leaning on his shoulder, having felt nothing of what transpired. Even with all the chaos that went on, along with the ruckus and destruction, Zhuofan made sure to keep Chu Qingqing shielded from even the slightest tremor. Everyone else, though, was too shell-shocked to react. Ouyang Changqing was gaping even. It was beyond his expert comprehension how the merchant he asked to come watch turned into a world expert himself. The divine move used to crush the ice dragon was beyond sublime. With the ice dragon using sealing, only a divine sword could touch it, but even his dad would have a hard time doing it. Just who the hell is that freak? Shengguan Qingyan looked on with adoration, but seeing Zhuofan and Chu Qingqing hand in hand, with the pretty face leaning on his shoulder, her joy plunged into confusion. Who is she to him? Why is he so caring with her? I've never seen him act like this with anyone. Gu Yifan. A sudden cry entered her confused mind, and saw Morong Shui frowning with a complex gaze at Zhuofan. Shengguan Qingyan looked around and rushed to whisper, Sister Shui, are you sure? How can he be that Gu Yifan? He might wear a mask, but I'll never forget the child next to him. Morong Shui was convinced. I also know the black thunder flame he used as well. Black flames are a rarity across the world. It is him beyond any doubt. Clenching her fists, Shangguan Qingyan lowered her head. How am I supposed to turn this around when Sister Shui is dead set on her suspicion? Curses! Sister Shui is too much of a stickler for righteousness, and will definitely tell others. What to do? Shangguan Qingyan was anxious while looking from Zhuofan to Morong Shui. Morong Shui picked on her cues and whispered, Yenner, did you already know him? And no way. Only what I heard from you, haha. Shangguan Qingyan flinched and forced a straight face on. Morong Shui's hard stare was unnerving. Yenner, you don't then? Then why were you so nervous seeing him about to get hurt? Fess up, did you know he was here? Shangguan Qingyan caved under Morong Shui's hard stare, squeezing a helpless nod. Yet you still covered for him? Do you have any idea how dangerous he is? Sister Shui, he said he came here to save his son. He's no threat to our lands. And you believed him? Of course I did. He helped get our soaring sword back. Shangguan Qingyan turned defiant under the assault, speaking with conviction. And I saw how much he cared for his son. He won't ever use his son as an excuse, especially when his life is on the line. Morong Shui's eyes shook and frowned in thought. Shangguan Qingyan was anxious. Sister Shui, I beg of you, don't tell on him, please. He's not bad. If he's so nice, then there's no good left in the world. Morong Shui rolled her eyes, then sighed as she looked at Zhuofan. I don't need to say anything. His attack painted a target on him. The Seabright sect will place a high value on him, and it's just a matter of time before he's found out. Then let him fake for a while longer. Shangguan Qingyan sighed as looked at Zhuofan with deep concern. Morong Shui sighed and shook her head. One guard saw everything that had happened and whispered to Zhuofan, Sir, I fear we're now the center of attention. Our cover will be blown. I know. Zhuofan glanced at the peaceful Chu Qingqing and smiled. But it was all worth it. Qingqing shouldn't have been like these for so many years, and should close her eyes and get well. It's what I owe her, what I... Zhuofan looked lost, and the guard understood as he retreated. Shui Ruohua stared into Zhuofan's expressive eyes with astonishment. Sir, why do I find you familiar? Have we met? Zhuofan remained silent. Whoosh! Exalted He Ran suddenly landed before them. Giving a long look to Zhuofan, he helped Yi Lin from the ground and cupped his hands. Thank you, sir, for your help. How may I address you? Steward Qianfan. Zhuofan replied. Exalted He Ran started. Qian clan, from the northern lands. Yes. Oh, northern lands have such amazing talent. Exalted He Ran gave him one last look then cursed inside. He thought Yi Lin and Zhuofan from western lands were the peak of what was humanly possible in terms of talent. Now he found that there was one more obscene genius, from northern lands. Talent comes in all sizes in every generation and from anywhere. The world will change. Exalted He Ran inspected Yi Lin's weak body then said to Shui Ruohua. Take Qingqing. I'm taking you back to look after your wounds. Hold! Shui Ruohua rushed to obey and take Chu Qingqing, but Zhuofan intervened. Zhuofan looked at Chu Qingqing with her eyes closed and said, Only brother here is wounded. Senior can just take him. Miss needs peace to get well, don't disturb her. You can all mind yourself, since he is far more important to you, sir. It's best if you don't delay his healing. Ugh! Exalted He Ran knew sarcasm when he heard it. A clear criticism for abandoning them over Yi Lin. He sighed and cupped his hands again before leaving with Yi Lin. Shui Ruohua was stumped as to what to do. Whoosh! Ouyang Lingtian came next, on the stage and raised his hand at the uncaring son, who was now shaking in fear at his dad's presence. You fool, you almost sent us all to oblivion, you know that? I know, the elders told me. He held his head with a guilty look, quickly changing topics. But shouldn't we be tending to the world channel and seal it first? We need to stop the power from flowing in. Why is there no more sword energy in the sky? Ouyang. Lingtian huffed in anger. There's no need to seal it. Not when it closed itself. How peculiar then. Weren't you saying that you were clueless, and that the elders had to fill you in? Ouyang Lingtian railed it on him. Damn brat, listen up. The worldly power needs to be drawn into the secular world to be controlled. To simplify, your art did that. The world went berserk because you changed the target of the drawing. Like before, the ice dragon became the target, making it so the worldly power focused on him. Once the ice dragon is no more, then there's no one drawing it. Of course the world will return to normal. Ouyang Chongqing bobbed his head. A weakened yet firm voice reached them. Ouyang Chongqing, let's fight again. It was Yi Lin who was now carried away by exalted He Ran. Humph, just a fight. Next time I'll just use one art to beat you again. Let me tell you, the best in the alliance will one day be yours truly, ha ha ha. Bam! Ouyang Lingtian had enough of his boasting and cuffed him over the head. You're fighting nothing. Haven't you caused enough trouble? And I thought the best in the four lands had been settled already. Ouyang Lingtian's eyes shone as he looked at Zhuo Fan. Everyone stared as well in realization. Maybe not only the best disciple in the alliance. Chapter 1027, Watched. Chapter 1027, Watched. Proofreader Papatonks. Ouyang Chongqing felt conflicted as he looked at Zhuo Fan. He could tell the other was strong, but did not mean he was ready to admit it. Unless a proper match is taking place, no one can say who's stronger. What's the point? That exchange was enough to show the difference between you. Ouyang Lingtian gave him a sharp glare, then spoke heavily. That ice dragon is something you and the Western Lands disciple have made with your power. It can be said he fought both of you then and easily beat it. He is far above you in this aspect, and Ouyang Lingtian grew silent at the end, and Ouyang Chongqing got curious. And? The ice dragon used your strongest heaven-sealing sword art, yet he easily broke it. This shows he is above you. He is in another class than you who are fighting for the best disciple in the four lands. You just can't win against him. Murong Shui was the one to finish Ouyang Lingtian's words. He was staring at his father with eyes filled with questions, and Ouyang Lingtian nodded. Shui is right. I've been fighting for so many years, but not once have I seen any divine sword's power being restrained. Not even invincible sword sundering sword art has such power. But who is he? Ouyang Lingtian stared at Zhuo Fan filled with doubt. The others were also curious, trying to guess his background. At the very least, they could rule out being a tiny steward to some merchant clan. Murong Shui kept her promise to Shengguan Qinyan, and did not say a word. Not like they needed her help, since Zhuo Fan gave himself away in broad daylight. He was in the limelight, and there was no escaping it. Seabright sect was not about to overlook such a mysterious and dangerous element slipping into their home either. They were all looking tense, trying to pick his every tell. Zhuo Fan acted oblivious, just sitting there with a girl on his shoulder, not wanting to disturb her. I am Ouyang Lingtian of Seabright sect. Who might Sir be, and where do you come from? What brings you to the Seabright sect? Seeing how the strange mood had no effect on Zhuo Fan, Ouyang Lingtian came over before this seemingly radiant stage cultivator. He dared not disrespect in the least. The rest looked intently at the exchange. Ouyang Chongqing still refused to believe what was happening. His father, the best in northern lands, was paying respects to some junior. It only went to prove how much the best in northern lands evaluated Zhuo Fan, no less than at his level. Since he got rid of the heaven-sealing sword art in one move, it meant that such power was the nemesis of the heaven-sealing sword. As its wielder, he was definitely concerned. While the cultivation was far below, the skill use put him on edge. Zhuo Fan gave him a look and knew he could no longer play innocent, having got to his usual mysterious and calculative self. He regarded the extremely respectful Northern Lands senior and spoke casually. Senior Ouyang, I am only a steward of the Qian clan coming to deliver goods. Let's leave it at that. Qian steward? Ha ha ha, does Sir take me for a child? We know everything about the Qian clan, and there's no one like you among it. Ouyang Lingtian shook his head. I don't want to force Sir to be honest, but the situation is critical now. Your sudden presence here terrifies us all. I have no choice but to offend Sir to avoid any problems. I can only ask for your forgiveness. Ouyang Lingtian's face was cold, giving the elders a look. The dozens of Genesis stage elders had the merchant group surrounded. The guards tensed, awaiting for Zhuo Fan's orders. Shangguan Qingyan started, clenching her fists with a frown and a pained heart. Murong Shui shook her head, while the Western Lands disciples and Sea Bright sect disciples watched the events unfold. Shui Ruohua and the other girl were just confused, looking at Zhuo Fan in wonderment. How did he turn dangerous? Who is he to need to arrest him? Zhuo Fan didn't move still, looking gracefully at the peaceful girl leaning on him. He then glanced at Ouyang Lingtian. Senior Ouyang, could you give me a moment to sit better? Sit better? What for? Ouyang Lingtian had no idea what trick Zhuo Fan was trying to pull. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Senior Ouyang, I just want to sit and nothing else. After all the destruction the ice dragon caused, it will make for a nice sunset to enjoy with the ice covering everything. Enjoy the sunset. Ouyang Lingtian's brow twitched, looking around the icy and snow-covered ruins, then at Zhuo Fan with a dumped look. What's up with this guy? There's no shock, panic, fear, nor anger, just the intention to watch the scenery? Is he all right? Ouyang Lingtian was floored by the deep eyes behind the eagle mask. Zhuo Fan's request had him stumped. The others let Ouyang Lingtian take the lead, and would not stop now. So all were looking dumb at Zhuo Fan, who just wanted to enjoy twilight. They had seen their fair share of people in their long lives as cultivators, against sly weasels or rash fools, but Zhuo Fan took the cake. Chu Qingqing opened her eyes, much clearer than before but still vacant. She then left Zhuo Fan's side. Qingqing is awake. Shui Ruohua lit up and spoke in gratitude. After all these years, this is the first time she had such a peaceful rest. Even with all the chaos around, it's a miracle she could sleep for so long. Shui Ruohua teared up. Zhuo Fan nodded at Chu Qingqing and said, Senior Ouyang, let's go. Miss Shui, I'll leave Miss Chu in your care. Did you stay like that so you won't disturb her? Ouyang Lingtian saw Zhuo Fan showing no change, but then it hit him. I get it now. Sir, after you. Ouyang Lingtian gestured, and a couple elders approached Zhuo Fan to detain him. Zhuo Fan didn't fight, walking away with a deep gaze as Shui Ruohua held Chu Qingqing. Qingqing, after I save young Sanzi, I will come get you and will never leave your side again. Pa! He barely made a step as Chu Qingqing reached out and gripped Zhuo Fan's hand. Zhuo Fan started and looked on with hope. Is Qingqing awake? What he saw was the same empty eyes, even as her soft hand held on to him, like something precious, unwilling to let go. Shui Ruohua tried to pull her, but the grip wouldn't give. Shui Ruohua was awkward, looking puzzled. What's got into Chu Qingqing? Zhuo Fan knew that she reached for him out of instinct. No matter when or where, even with her faded mind, her memories gone, her feelings would never change. Chu Qingqing was holding on to Zhuo Fan all because of those feelings. Zhuo Fan's heart was in pain again, speaking firmly to Ouyang Lingtian. Senior Ouyang, could you also bring Miss wherever you're taking me? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.